Thank you, everyone, for coming to the Board of Trustees regular meeting on May 24th. We are continuing from an earlier session where we went into executive session. So we convened at, I think, 5:06, and we went into executive session. There, just for everyone's edification, we did adopt an amended agenda. So make sure you have the amended May 24th version tonight. Looks like we have 8 people signed up for public comment. If there's anybody else, raise your hand, but we're going to go for that. We are going to modify the agendas a little bit, but it'll be pretty similar to what we have. So let's just start. We have a quorum. Let's please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No comment there, man. I'm an educator.
Before going to the board development update and a public comment, we're going to skip down to celebrating success, the power of resilience and student stories. If you could please come to the microphone. And thank you. This is Louisa Rogers. Please state your name and welcome.
Hello, yes, I'm Louisa Rogers with the Center for New Directions. It's a true honor to be here, Board of Trustees and President Swain. I am with the Center for New Directions at North Idaho College, which is a department on campus that supports specific demographics of students, single parents, displaced homemakers, and students in the career technical education field. And if you were to walk into my office right now, it's a complete mess. For those of you who have been there, you know this. I have piles of clothes that have been donated to go to students and their children. I have a whole shelf full of toiletries that students who need some toiletries can come and have. I have a laundry detergent. I have 4,000 diapers that were donated to me just recently for my second annual baby shower event to support single mothers on campus and single parents on campus in honor of Mother's Day. So my office is a mess. And as you can imagine by the description of my office, what I do at NIC when it comes to supporting students doesn't necessarily fall under the traditional academic realm. I am no good when it comes to signing students up for classes or telling them what they need to take in order to graduate. What I do really well is help support them in their personal life. So if a student is having an issue in their personal life, then I can support them through that issue, hopefully, so they can focus and be successful in school. So for an example, if a student can't pay rent or can't afford gas to get to and from school, or can't afford their childcare because prices went up, then I'm able to step in and maybe help with that. So tonight, I'm really excited to share some success stories with you. Because of the way I work with the students, I get to know them on a more personal level and I get to hear their stories. And oftentimes, these students have been through a lot of difficulty in their past. They've experienced tremendous hardship, but they have pushed forward and are overcoming that hardship. And they have really cool stories that bring them to NIC. So I actually have some students and their wonderful children in the back right now, and that's why we moved this to the front so the kids can get home and get ready for bed. So I'm going to read the story of each student and have them stand while I read. So the first one will be Carla. Carla is here tonight with her daughter. She's a single mom of 2, and she actually just graduated from NIC just a couple weeks ago. So Carla is now an official NIC alumni. She has worked hard to make it this far. She has big plans for her future. Carla's journey to this point has not been easy. As a child, she grew up in an abusive household. She had 2 kids very young. She was a stay-at-home mom, but the pattern of abuse in her life continued. And one day she realized she could not continue living in this pattern. She needed to break free from the abuse, end the cycle so her children could grow up in a loving, supportive, peaceful home. So she left and she found herself a single mom. She knew she needed to be able to support herself and her kids, which eventually led her to NIC. And I was so excited when I was able to meet her in my office last year. Carla is a first-generation college student. She has a huge heart. She balances work, parenthood, school. She volunteers as a CASA advocate, advocating for abused and neglected children. She'll be attending Gonzaga University, and she plans on becoming a lawyer so she can advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. She's really a wonderful, wonderful person. And this is what she says about her experience at NIC. My experience at NIC has been amazing. I've been able to earn a degree that fits around my already crazy busy life schedule at a pace that I felt comfortable with as to not overdo and load too much on my plate. I am part of the Center for New Directions and TRIO. Both have helped me with so many things, both personally and educationally. NIC is a community, not just a school to me. It has become my second home. I get excited coming to campus and knowing I am going to see people who support me and are there to help me with anything that I need. The women in the parenting support group have become good friends. I love visiting and seeing their beautiful faces. I love sharing our stories and supporting one another and hearing about each other's victories. It has been awesome knowing we all have our struggles, but we are not alone. We have an amazing support system at NIC. Thank you, Carla. All right, next up we have Emily. Emily and her daughter are here tonight. Just a couple years ago, they were not in a good situation, which I won't go into details because of the little ears. But Emily realized she had to take control of their lives to ensure safety and break generational patterns. So this left her as a single mom. Emily knew she needed to support her and her daughter, so she got a phlebotomy certificate and she began working as a phlebotomist. And let me tell you, she is very good at her job. If you ever need to get your blood drawn, you want Emily to be the one to draw the blood. But when she was at her job as a phlebotomist, she was observing the nurses who were working in the clinic with her. And she was like, I can do that. I could totally be a nurse. She was watching their job. So she enrolled at NIC. And I met her last year. She just completed her first year of the prerequisites for the nursing program. And just, I think a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, she found out she was accepted into the nursing program. For those of you who know about our nursing program at NIC, you know that is an incredible accomplishment because that is a very competitive, excellent program. Emily says this about her experience at NIC. Before coming to NIC, I was lost with what I was going to do with my life. I have a daughter and I wanted to set a great example for her. After attending NIC, I know that my daughter is proud of me. I am proud of myself. The staff at NIC have been nothing but helpful, encouraging, and welcoming. I have learned so much in the short time I have been attending, and it has forever changed the way I think and act in my life. I'm a better person since attending NIC. Thank you, Emily. All right, next we have Brittany. Brittany is here with her youngest, but she's actually a single mom of 5. We had all those rows in the back reserved, and if all the kids had shown up, they would have been more than full, but we didn't have them all come tonight. When I met Brittany, she was actually homeless with her kids. Last summer, she and her kids became homeless after having to leave a very bad situation quickly. And after several months of homelessness, she was able to find a small, affordable apartment, which was earlier this year. And if y'all know about the housing situation in North Idaho, that's a true miracle. She just graduated NIC also with her associate's degree. Brittany is going on to LCSC for her bachelor's in social work, and her experience and her life experience is gonna just be incredible as she navigates the world of social work, helping others. She says this about our school. North Idaho College has become a home away from home for me. Literally, when I found myself homeless, I found solace and purpose here. North Idaho College has touched my life in so many ways, and because of it, I now have a solid foundation, which I will continue to build upon. The good that was done for me will ripple into the community through my career path. This is my greatest wish. Thank you, Brittany. Next up is Terry. Terry actually attended NIC about 20 years ago, but she dropped out because she met a boy. I think I got that right. And she ended up falling in love and getting married and having 6 children. There's a few of them back there. She and Rick, her husband, had a wonderful life, but the unthinkable happened 2 years ago. Her husband passed away from COVID-19. And suddenly she was a single mom with 6 children, and she realized she had to become financially independent so she could support herself. So somehow she found my number, and I'm so glad she did. And she enrolled at NIC. Terry is very special to me, so I'm like, her story is very powerful, so I apologize. So Terry's end goal is actually to become a social worker as well. She wants to use her personal experience of navigating this devastating loss to help others who are going through the similar situation. And she has such a big heart, and she's kind of like, I have this mom group, we meet once a week. She's like the mom of the moms. I feel like Terry is like the mom of our mom group. So no. So Terry says this about her experience at NIC. Almost 2 years ago, God led me to NIC. In many ways, this is a difficult path, but the faculty and staff have given me the encouragement and support I need. From single mom support groups that show us moms that we are not alone, to constructive feedback from professors helping improve my writing or public speaking, everyone is always so willing to help. Coming back to school after 20 years and after the loss of my husband has its challenges, but I know I am setting a positive example for my kids, showing them that you have to keep moving forward no matter what life throws at you. I hope I'm making them proud. Thank you, Terry. All right, my last student tonight is Shannon. Shannon and Ruby, if you can stand up. Shannon is here today with her youngest, who she calls her baby. They were actually on a camping trip and they just came back just for this. And so they're headed back to the mountains afterwards. So thank you for being here. I met Shannon over a year ago. She is also a single mom of 6 kids, and she and her kids have been through a lot. Shannon's ex-husband is actually in prison right now for doing some very evil things. And although they've been through a lot of hardship, I've never seen this family without smiles on their faces. Just over a year ago, Shannon and her kids were homeless and they were trying to get back on their feet. And with the help of Family Promise, which is an amazing local organization, Shannon was able to find an apartment for herself and her family. And once they were settled into their new home, she contacted my department. She enrolled at NIC, and she's working to create a stable life for herself and her kids. Whenever I see her kids, they talk about how they're going to come to NIC one day. They're all very excited about it. You can see her daughter's wearing her North Idaho College gear. In fact, really, all of these families have a bunch of kids, and we have events on campus. So you're going to see enrollment numbers jump in about 8 years because all these kids love this school and they can't wait to be college students here. I think they want to skip middle school and high school and just go straight into classes.
We'll be ready for them.
So Shannon says this about her experience. North Idaho College has enabled me to set a positive example for my children by giving me the support and confidence and skills to be a productive and successful member of our community. NIC has provided a path to financial security for my family and has inspired my children to dream big for their future and educational goals. Thank you, Shannon. I'll finish with these words. North Idaho College is truly an incredible place. NIC provides a pathway out of poverty for many students. It provides a pathway to a better life. It becomes a home away from home to many students. Students gain so much more than a degree. They gain self-confidence. They gain life skills. They gain self-worth. They gain the tools to break free from the cycle of generational poverty or generational abuse. It's truly a great privilege to work at this school and to walk alongside these students in their educational journey at NIC. I want to give one last round of applause to these amazing students. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent job.
they're welcome to go if they don't want to.
And thank you for coming and making down. Yeah, you're welcome to head out, or you're welcome to enjoy. So we appreciate you being here a lot. Okay, we have Ken Burke and Dr. Debbie D. Thomas are our ACCT consultants that have been investing in us as much as we're investing in them. So thank you. You have the floor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. And I appreciate being here today and have the opportunity to share with the community here on the progress that's being made as far as governance issues here at North Idaho College. First of all, you have a magnificent college, beautiful location, wonderful dedicated faculty and staff, students who outperform the national averages in every measure. It's really an incredible institution. I think we just heard why accreditation is so vital to this institution. Louise's words is why she said how this college changes lives, and the vital part it plays in this community all leads us to making sure that this college is here in the future and can serve those students that you talked about who are anxiously awaiting coming here in another decade. So let's talk about the progress which has been made. I should introduce myself to you. My name is Ken Burke. You probably say, well, what are my credentials to work with your board? So I do this not out of ego, but let me just share a little bit about me. I served on the Board of Trustees of St. Petersburg College in Florida for 13 years. In the state of Florida, we're appointed by the governor. I was appointed by 3 different governors to that board. After that, I kind of got bumped upstairs to the statewide Higher Education Coordinating Council, where I served on that board and eventually became chair of that board. Also, I was on the National Association of Community College Trustees board and went through the chairs there and became the national leader of that. And then went on the president's board, which is called the American Association of Community Colleges, and they have one trustee who serves on that 30-member board, and I had the opportunity to serve on that for 3 years. Also, there was a commission formed with the future of community colleges, and that was called the 21st Century Commission, and I had the great opportunity to serve on that. So I have community colleges in my heart. My colleague in this effort, Dr. Debbie D. Thomas, has better credentials than I do. She is a lifelong educator. She taught at the hardest level, which was middle school, and then went on and was in higher education for many years, serving in the California system, and served as a very distinguished president of her community college. So we've been working with this board in governance issues. We use this as our Bible. This is the Association of Community College Trustees publication, which talks about governance and the role of a trustee. For a guy who's a CPA by profession, I co-authored one of the chapters in this book. So it's probably my only claim to fame and the only time I'll ever be authored. But your trustees, I have to let you know, and there's probably some who hear my remarks who may be a bit cynical about this, but they have truly been committed to the work that we're doing. It's any path and any journey, as you know, is always going to have bumps along the road. And any journey worth taking is going to have those little bumps. So it's not always going to be smooth. We're not always going to agree, but the training sessions have been frank. Your trustees have been very engaged. All 5 of your trustees have been very engaged in the conversations which have taken place, and progress is being made. Just to give you an idea of the efforts that Dr. D. Thomas and I had with this board, it started on March 2nd and 3rd, where we visited the campus and individually we met with each trustee. Each trustee made the time to be with us. We met with each of the advocacy groups from the staff, the faculty, and the students. And we appreciate those representatives always being here. And Michael, congratulations on your new position here representing the students. We also met with college administrators to hear from them, various college administrators for their perspectives. So we had a total of 14 visits in a 2-day period while we were here. From there, that helped us put together the agenda for a retreat. It was a 7-hour retreat on a Saturday. And again, the commitment of your trustees to attend these sessions, to actively participate, and to come with an open mind, and they did. Again, very lively discussion. That was on April 15th. On April 25th, we had another session in the evening after a long day working from 5:30 to 8:30. And on May 10th, we also had another 5:30 to 8:30 session. Tomorrow evening, not only are your trustees working tonight, but they'll be working tomorrow night too. We're gathering at 5:30 again on the campus for another 3-hour training session where we're hitting different vital parts on what a high-performing board looks like. This morning, we had a great example of what is being accomplished here as far as board governance. This morning, you had 2 of your trustees that were designated by the board to work on policies. Trustee Mike Wagoner and Trustee Terry Zimmerman had a great meeting. I mean, it was a textbook perfect meeting as far as everyone talking, both trustees talking. President Swain was there. Your board clerk Shannon was there, going over what the statutes say as far as the duties of the board, what the Idaho code say as the duties of the board, what are good governance practices according to this book, and how we can make those all combined into a better policy document. And we said today, hey, our work couldn't be done in that 2-hour meeting, so we probably have to schedule more time for that particular policy. But that's a tangible sign of how this board is working towards good governance. The whole bottom line of this is not only to make the college and the board and the president's relation as positive as could possibly be, but also to bring stability to this college and making sure that the college is reaccredited by the accreditation authority. So this is a sincere effort by the board. I commend them for their dedication to this training, and we certainly consider it an honor. Both Dr. D. Thomas and I consider it an honor to be here, and we're going to do all we can to make this effort successful and make sure this college gets reaccredited so that those students, those prospective students there who were introduced today, those children have the same opportunities that so many other people in this community have had. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for that, giving me the opportunity for that report.
Thank you, sir. We are moving into public comment.
You have this statement.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Before we start, I have a statement I'd like to say. The board welcomes public comment at our regularly scheduled monthly board meetings, and tonight is one of those board meetings. So this is the time for our board to listen to your comments, concerns, celebrations, and challenges members of our community wish to share with each of us. Our role as trustees is to listen respectfully. It is not a time for the board to interact or ask questions. If there is a question by one of our commenters tonight, I ask that President Swain keep track of those questions so administration can work with the board to have answers available at a future time. Based on our college's policy, members of the public will keep their comments to topics listed on items on tonight's agenda. When it is your time to come forward and provide comment, please state your name for the record and identify the agenda item you wish to speak about. Each speaker will have 2 minutes for their comments. Disorderly speech or action, name calling, or personal attacks, obscene or indecent remarks, and derogatory comments on personalities is not acceptable. I also ask the audience to please refrain from any outbursts that are disruptive to the speaker or the board's ability to listen to the person who is providing public comment. If you would like to provide public comment to the Board of Trustees but choose not to speak tonight, you can always email the board at any time at board@nic.edu. I believe I speak for all the trustees when I say this board appreciates listening to all of our stakeholders and the wide range of viewpoints and the passions felt for NIC. Would the first public speaker come before us who's talking about budget? Ron Hartman and Dan English, you're on deck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. My name is Ron Hartman, citizen of Coeur d'Alene. I was up at the last board meeting and I'm here still seeking the same information. I have now reviewed all 18 pages of the first and second financial reading of the 2024 budget, and do not find the NIC Foundation staff salary and benefit cost. As stated before, the second reading, page 16, has $359,600 stated as salary and benefits for other auxiliary services. The 2022 annual financial report on page 43 shows NIC paid the NIC Foundation $271,084 for staff salary and benefits. The NIC Foundation is an independent 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization governed by a volunteer board of directors. I will ask again at this meeting, will you please let me know if the NIC 2024 budget will include NIC Foundation staff salaries and benefit cost? And if yes, how much, and explain why we're doing this.
Thank you for your time. We'll take notes. Dan English, please. And Diana Sheridan, you're on deck. Please state your name and your topic.
My name is Dan English. I'm a proud part-time library employee. I'm a library clerk first class, and I graduated from here back in about 71, was on the first wrestling team, and also have served on a lot of boards. I'm currently a Coeur d'Alene City Council member. What I would like to do tonight, and actually I think I'm probably confirming some of what the previous speaker said about training, and yes, I think it is showing some fruits. I would like to commend the board, and particularly Chairman McKenzie, for some of the actions you've taken recently on the legal front. I was addressing the legal counsel services under new business. I can appreciate that it's tough to make some of those calls, and especially when you're swimming upstream, some people aren't going to be happy, but you made some tough calls that I think are in the best interest of the college and the students. And so I would like to commend you for that and tell all of you to keep up the good work. Also, I would just kind of say for the record, I think that your current attorney, you're going to go through this transition, and you're hiring a great firm and all of that. But I think some people have kind of sold art a bit short. I knew him for a lot of years when I was county clerk, and he was the city attorney for Hutter. And boy, you could get quite an education in government policy and conflicts on boards, and art was there. So he really does know a lot of those things. So anyway, I commend you for the actions you've taken recently, and just tell you to keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thank you for coming down. Diana Sheridan. Corrine Shepler, you're on deck.
So I may get cut short on this one since I don't think it's directly related to an agenda item, but I did want to.
Your name and public records is your topic.
Right.
Go for it. We'll see. how it
Okay.
goes.
So really it's a compliment. First, I want to read the opening statement from a U.S. District Court recent opinion, Public Health and Medical Professionals for Transparency versus the FDA. And the judge's ruling opens with the following statement: democracy dies behind closed doors. To help prevent that from happening, Congress enacted the Freedom of Information Act. I just want to compliment the college's department, I believe ran by Ms. Rumpler, who is currently handling all the requests for public records. And I'm a public requester, and I just find that department to be helpful. They're responsive. Their communication is great. And so working with them has been a pleasure. So my hat off to Ms. Rumpler and her staff. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Corrine Shepler and Robert Shepler, you're on deck.
My name is Karen Shepler. I'll be talking to the subcommittee point this evening. But first, I wanted to say, for those of you know what it is. This is my green dot. I don't think anybody on that board doesn't realize that I am a very vocal proponent for this college, and I will hold each of you personally accountable for the jobs that we have elected you for, because I vote and this college is important, as we saw earlier this evening. So this is my green dot. If anybody on the board has a question about that, you can reply to my email that I sent you earlier today. For the subcommittee, I did send an email later or earlier this evening. You probably haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I would request that when you meet again, that you look at 2.1.2 and look at training opportunities for those of you holding positions. I know that 3 of you are brand new to the board and holding positions, and I will give the chair nods because he is new to his chair position as well, and training on what is required for that I think is important. And I don't think that any of you really got the training that you deserved to hold the position. I would also ask under 2.1.10 that you look closely at the disciplinary policies and how that should be as a procedure, because we do need to be able to support each other both as a board and as a community for your board, so that we don't have situations where the atomic bomb gets set off because somebody's feelings got hurt over something, when it very easily could have been handled in executive session with a simple conversation. So I would request that you look at that one as well, and hopefully have a chance to make modifications to those policies to better the college. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Robert Shepler and Mike Gridley's on deck.
Good evening. My name is Robert Shepler, and I'd like to speak to items on the budget today. It was mentioned in the March regular meeting by Trustee Zimmerman that we were still paying Dr. South to the north of $25,000 a month in benefits, and she recommended at that time that we discontinue that contract since Dr. Swain has been reinstated. That still has not happened. As a taxpayer in the community, $25,000 a month out of a $50 million annual budget does not seem like much, but $25,000 a month in paying benefits is a huge amount to those of us that are actually paying those benefits. I would like to see a revisit of the recommendation to terminate Dr. South's contract, simply as a tax savings to the community. Also, since that is a point of the accreditation as to have one leader for the college, that would be something I think that could assist with that. And I believe since that's also a point of contention in at least one of the lawsuits that we have, again, that would work towards that remediation. I just think as a group with fiscal responsibility for the school and to the community, that those kind of expenditures need to be remediated, and as quickly as possible without overpaying. That money can be used elsewhere, I believe, in our community and in our school. There are more scholarships that can be offered to students to continue to have those success stories. The stories that they were talking about tonight really hit me. And those are the kind of stories I think that need to be shared every meeting for an NIC. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Gridley and Joe Prado on deck.
Good evening. I'm Mike Gridley. I'm a resident of Coeur d'Alene. I've been an attorney for 41 years. The last 20, I'm retired now, was as city attorney for the city of Coeur d'Alene.
Your topic, legal services.
Legal services. That's and I want to speak in recommendation of Holland and Hart. I've not worked personally with them, but they're a firm, quality firm, and a firm with high integrity and no allegiance to any particular political party or anything else. And we've heard the phrase that quality costs, but I would suggest that poor quality costs more. And since we've had a change of legal counsel at NIC, we've incurred 3 lawsuits. We've incurred legal fees with that attorney, probably north of $125,000 in 6 months. We've incurred costs, as was described, for a contract with the president on administrative leave who does nothing at a time when new faculty are paid $60,000 a year. We have incurred other costs that will continue to add up. And I think from a fiscal responsibility, we need to get, or I'm recommending that you proceed with the hiring of Holland and Hart. The criticism that, yes, they cost more, but again, I would suggest that quality costs and poor quality costs more. So thank you.
Thank you. And that, Joe Prado, you're next.
Hi, I'm just going to speak on some recent happenings. I'm Joe Prado, and I heard about what happened to Chairman Banducci, how he was assaulted with chemicals. And I think it's good to have, healthy, verbose debate. It's very good to have that. But when you start having physical intimidation, it makes that healthy, verbose debate and the pursuit of good governance especially difficult. And it can cause stress to whoever is the recipient of that bullying, or let's just call it, criminal violence. So I would just ask everyone on both sides just to consider this, that let's keep it respectful. And I know it's easy to get hot-blooded over such a big issue, but let's not make this the norm. I'd like to keep this area nice and peaceful. And that's the way it should be, because that's the way we should all act as North Idahoans, as Americans, as human beings. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming down. We are going to move to the constituent reports. If Michael Haberman would make himself to the microphone. This is Asnick.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Chair McKenzie, President Swain. To start things off, I might as well introduce myself. My name is Michael Haberman. I am the ASNIC president. I'm a computer science and mathematics major. I was born and raised in Kootenai County and intend on staying in Kootenai County for the rest of my life. I was homeschooled K through 12, and I'm thrilled to represent the thousands of students on this campus. ASNIC is happy to report that we've added a new senator, Presley Steele. Now, Presley, will you please stand? And can we give a round of applause for Presley? The new team interviewed her and she did phenomenal. I'm super excited to work with her, especially because I know how involved she already is on campus. We always leave 2 positions open for senators during the spring semester. So just to give the new students an opportunity to apply. So if anyone here is an incoming student or knows of someone who is interested in applying, we currently have 3 positions open for senator that we will be filling during the fall semester. Every year, ASNIC does a spring survey, and that's what guides the next team for the projects that can be taken on the following school year. Last month, we put out our spring survey and saw a 26% increase in survey respondents compared to last year. This means that we could be seeing a more involved campus, and student events have been seeing a very similar increase in participation. Other than that, last year's team wrote transition letters to help the incoming officers better prepare for their position. And the hammock project is going smoothly, and we can hope that we have hammock projects up by the fall. I did prepare a statement with the team regarding the condemnation of battery and destruction of trustee property. The Associated Students of North Idaho College student government strongly condemned the reprehensible acts committed by former Assistant Professor Zachary P. Schallbetter, including the battery and destruction of trustee property. The impact of these actions extends beyond a single board member and has left several other employees in fear. As representatives of the student body, we denounce all forms of wrongful, violent conduct. We sincerely hope that such regrettable and abhorrent incidents will never recur in the future. Again, it is a huge honor to speak in front of the board, and I'm excited to meet with the new ASNIC team next semester. Any remarks or questions for me?
I'm content. Thank you for, Trustee Banducci.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. I also have paper copies if you guys want.
Give one to Shannon, if you would.
Thank you. Faculty Assembly, John Gardunia.
Thank you very much. You pronounced that correctly. John Gardunia is my name. I am here standing in place for the newly elected chair for the Faculty Assembly. In our last Faculty Assembly meeting, we had our elections of new officers. So Kathleen Miller-Green is going to be the new chair. I'm going to be the vice chair with the secretary, Amanda Roberts, Christy Mendoza as our treasurer. We were able to fulfill all of the open positions for the Senate, Faculty Senate positions, and we're able to successfully wrap up the semester. And we look forward to working with you guys in the future. And want to know if you have any questions for me.
Trustee Banducci.
Good evening, John.
Hey,
I want to thank you and your colleagues for the note that you wrote. If you're not offended by it, I'd like to share it because you
Please do.
guys
Yeah.
came out with this very quickly and I was very appreciative of it.
Yeah, we responded immediately to the news. So go ahead.
You did. And the Faculty Assembly Executive Board condemns the actions of a former North Idaho College faculty's battery against Trustee Banducci and his business. Such actions are completely unacceptable. Our thoughts go out to Trustee Banducci and his employees. Sincerely, the Faculty Assembly Executive Board, Kathleen Miller-Green, Chair, Jonathan Gardunia, Vice Chair, Christy Mendoza, Treasurer, and Amanda Roberts, Secretary. One of the things I'd like to particularly commend you guys for is because what you did is a sign of leadership. Not just the statement that you made and the gesture, but the fact that you made that decision on your own. As leaders, sometimes we have to do that, and you felt it was the right thing to do, and you guys made the decision and did it. So that's leadership. So I commend you for that, and also thank you for the statement.
You're welcome. Would note that we had to do this internationally. Kathleen is in Ireland, and we were able to hold a vote, over a large time span, and we felt it is very important to get that statement out as soon as possible. So no time was wasted.
And I don't know if I owe you an apology or not. I don't know if you were trying to get to me after the last meeting or not. Everything was so crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy meeting. I was going to touch base with you, but yeah,
So thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Yes, the instant response was a wonderful surprise. Staff Assembly, Sarah Martin.
Good evening. Good evening, board members, Dr. Swain, community members, both online and here in person. I would like to start off with a quick statement. In light of recent events, Staff Assembly Executive Committee affirms that we do not condone hostility and intimidation under any circumstances. This statement was drafted and approved by members of the executive team, which included the incoming officers, ongoing officers, as well as the outgoing officers. The Staff Assembly met earlier this month for our final assembly meeting of the academic year. While we covered our usual items and reports, the meeting was brief as there weren't any major items explored outside of announcing the results of our newly elected Staff Assembly executive officers. I am pleased to introduce and announce, some are here, not all of them are here, some are watching from Zoom tonight. But we were able to fill the seats for senator positions that were vacated, so there was success there. But we had even greater success with filling the executive officer seats. So our parliamentarian is going to be Katrina Cook. She actually served as our secretary this past year, and she did an amazing job, and she's going to do a phenomenal job as parliamentarian next year. Our secretary is Amber Haas. We have our vice chair, Colleen Ward. And our new chair will be Matt Piekarski. I am confident that this group will not only continue to lead staffs in the months and year ahead, but will be vital in our collective efforts in working together and moving forward. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving to Senate, Neil Doyle.
Thank you, Chair McKenzie, Dr. Swain, trustees, community members. I know last time was supposed to be my last report, but one more from me. The NIC Senate had its last meeting on May 11th. Our primary focus was officer elections, so we welcomed our new incoming members and we did elect new officers. Jason Dross will actually be serving as the Senate Chair for the following academic year, upcoming academic year. We also did do a second read on one policy, that was policy 2.01.07, which is inspection of records. We did pass that policy and pass it along to hopefully come to you guys next. Any questions for me?
I see we brought the kilt again.
Every time. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you for coming down. President's report. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dr. Swain.
So I'm gonna go briefly over the accreditation, where we are in accreditation, quick update, just really focusing on timeline, and just kind of where we are in progress. Just a reminder, kind of looking back, February 9th, we got the show cause letter from NWCCU. March 30th, we responded back to NWCCU with our report. The NWCCU sent a peer review team that visited us on the 26th and 27th of April. On May 4th, they sent us a first round draft of their report, and we had 7 days to respond. We did that. On May 11th, we provided about 60 corrections and recommendations. About half of them were accepted into the final version, and that final version is now available on the website. On May 17th, NIC received that final version back, and sorry, so that's what's now up on the website. Apologize for that. And then we have until May 30th now to submit responses again. So there was and this response, the first response went to the visiting team to make corrections. That's now final. So what we got on the 17th is the final version. Now we're going to respond back, and it goes to the full commission. Doesn't go back to the team, it goes to the full commission as a document that they will review when they do their accreditation hearing. So the next event is on June 23rd, where we have about 50 minutes to provide opening comments, answer questions from the entire commission, and then provide a concluding statement. The visiting team will consist of Chair McKenzie, myself, Interim Provost Dr. Lloyd Duman, Vice President for Finance and Business, Sarah Garcia, the Director of Human Resources, Karen Hubbard, the Dean of Instruction, Sherry Simpkins, and the Accreditation Liaison, Steve Kurtz. So the next, so we're going to meet for about 50 minutes, probably the most important 50 minutes of our careers. And then we'll get final word back from the NWCCU on or about the 23rd. They have up to 30 days to respond back to us. And so we will know by the 23rd of July what their determinations are. We're not supposed to speculate. It was a good meeting. The report is good. It shows how we can grow and improve on all sides. And I think hopefully you're observing that with the help of ACCT consultants and just the work of the board, we are, I think, functioning much better as a board. And I think you've seen a dramatic improvement since the 26th of April going forward. So hopefully all that has an impact. I think at this point, actions speak louder than words. Board members have, for the last 2 days, a small team of writers have been working on our response that will go back by Tuesday morning, May 30th. We have to have this response back. So the last couple of days, we've been putting together a draft of that. So you see that on your tables. And please read through that. The goal of this report is not to go point by point to the 60 items that we identified as errors, but really to step back and look at it as a broader picture, more philosophical about the things that we are accomplishing, the things that we're doing better together, and respond to the board. So you'll see that draft version on your tables. I need that back by Tuesday morning, the 30th, and then we have to have it edited and back to NWCCU by Tuesday evening. So provide those, whatever comments you have, if you would please provide those to Steve Kurtz, and the writing team will get together and incorporate the comments from the board into that response. And this is a current draft. It is not, it is by no means the final version of even our efforts. So this is a great opportunity. You got about 5 or 6 days, of course, Memorial Day weekend, that originally they give you 10 days, which would have put it on Saturday, and they were kind enough to give us until Tuesday to get that in. So we have until Tuesday. If you get your comments to us by early Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock, we'll have everything incorporated to the greatest extent possible, and get a response back to the NWCCU by 5 p.m. on Tuesday evening. Yep.
Is there an optimal length to this? Right now, we're at about 2 1/3 pages or so.
I think shorter is better, but because this is going to go in as a document to the whole commission. And so I think shorter is better, but we can, what we are not allowed to do, this is the only document that we can now submit. So no other documents are allowed. The only thing they will accept is this response. So from us.
Just was asking from a sense of keep it short and sweet, pump it up a little bit. I didn't know what the intention was. We're trying to put more meat into it or try to hit a certain length.
And again, this is just a first draft. We spent about 4 hours over the past couple of days putting it together. So it's just a first draft. Just try to high level. And I think, I think we have made positive progress. I'm going to spend some time with Ken tomorrow, and he hasn't seen this, and maybe get some input from him about that as well.
Wardinsky.
What's that?
Wardinsky.
No, Burke. Oh, yeah, he's going to be here with us all day tomorrow. So, we'll do some review on that, and we currently now have 2 versions. We're going to keep this one the way it is, so you can provide comments. We'll continue to work and refine ours, and then on Tuesday pull all that together. So that's the plan going forward. And so any other questions on where we are? If not, I'll jump to the next topic. Part of what we're trying to do is re-engage with the community. And so we started that with a big accreditation forum on May 3rd, which I think was really well attended. It was lots of great feedback. We actually had one in April as well. The June 8th, we're going to do another one on talking about athletics at NIC. And then in August, we haven't set a date for it yet, but in August, we'll talk about dual credit and how we can do a better job supporting the schools and the people of the community with our dual credit program. So those are community re-engagement. On a similar topic, we did a quick audit of our summer programming for this summer, and have made a concerted effort to open up new face-to-face courses. There was kind of a lack of face-to-face courses that we saw. So the leadership has gone back to faculty, and we're trying to do as many face-to-face programs as possible, supporting students. And we get an influx of a lot of folks coming in over the summer that just want to take some creative writing courses or art courses. And so those are hard to do online. And so we want to, like art on the beach or yoga on the beach is a lot more enticing than yoga on Zoom. So we're really trying to expand those programs and get faculties to get back. I think part of COVID made doing online summer courses the norm, and we're trying to get people back on campus and re-engage with the community in that way. My next note was to introduce Vicki Isaacson, so this is kind of like out of order, but Vicky Isaacson, you know her, she was here last board meeting as the head of our Workforce Training Center. She applied for and was selected to be the dean of our workforce program. So Vicky, very happy to have her on in that capacity. As you saw, if you were watching the last report, she's done great things in terms of growing workforce training, expanding programs, really creating a great business model. And so we look forward to her moving up and taking over Workforce Training Center, but also the Parker Center and growing enrollments and improving the business model for those programs as well. This is a great time of year, lots of kind of closeout activity. So just remind everybody, on May 12th, we had a commencement. It was my first. I didn't trip and fall on the stage, so it was a success. But honestly, we had some great outcomes. I'm going to highlight a couple of those. Had more than 150 students earn their GED certificates with support of our adult education program here on campus and GED testing centers. And that's in Sandpoint and here on this campus. I think 45 of them showed up for a special GED graduation, which is great because for many of those, that's their big high school graduation. And it's probably the first graduation they've attended in person in 3 years. So it was a really nice event. They all get to wear their red cap and gown. It was really, really nice. We had our radiography, that's one of those words that just flows off your tongue. Radiography technology program had their pinning ceremony and graduation. 7 students graduated. They all had jobs when they graduated. They all went to work in our community, making impact. They're the guys that support you getting x-rays and so forth. So great program supporting our medical community there. Also had a Basic Patrol Academy graduate with 12 students on the 4th of May. We held a Mother's Day music concert on Coeur d'Alene. It was the kind of the swan song for 2 of our great music faculty, Max and Brian, that are departing us for different going on to different things in their careers. Our men's golf team won the NWACS championship, and our women's team came in second at a tournament on May 22nd in Yakima. So, and of course, our coach Russell Grove, he didn't place, but he did really well in the PGA tournament. I think he got knocked out in the second round, but he went farther than he's gone in the past. So,
unfortunately, after the first 2 rounds, he didn't make the cut.
Yeah, he didn't make the cut, but so again, another product of Coeur d'Alene High School is our coach and also very competitive at the personal level. So say congratulations to him.
Nick, if I may add one thing, that was the 5th straight championship for the men's golf.
But who's counting?
Who's counting?
Yeah,
They got a ring for every finger.
they're doing great. Our NIC softball team placed 4th in the NWACS championship on May 20th in Portland. And Mr. Chair, this concludes the president's report.
Thank you. Any questions for the president? Seeing none, we can always go back. Consent agenda. So as is with standard practice, what we learned from other community or ACCT training is standard practice by community college boards. And starting this meeting, there'll be a motion to approve the consent agenda. So I'm going to make a request that a board member make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented, which is the action for approval for meeting minutes for 24th, 26th, and May 17th. And if a board member is willing to make that motion, starting this meeting and going forward, we can have this practice. Please say so moved.
I'll say so moved.
And a second.
I second it.
Okay. Let's go for the vote. All those in favor of passing the consent agenda, say aye.
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 That's 4 votes. The consent agenda is passed. Moving to unfinished business.
Mr. Chairman, if I could have the floor for a moment, I'd like to read a statement regarding this next agenda item.
Sure.
In this transaction involving the college's annual budget and in the interest of being fully transparent with the public that I serve as a member of the NIC Board of Trustees, please allow me to disclose that I have a potential personal interest in the college's budget because my son-in-law is currently employed as an instructor, having been gainfully employed as such prior to the time in which my term as trustee began. Consistent with College Policy 3.02.15 and my commitment to North Idaho College, I will be able to participate in this transaction fairly, objectively, and in the public's best interest. And that statement is signed by myself and President Swain. Okay.
Thank you. How do other trustees feel? I think it's in the best interest of this to table the fiscal year budget till the next regular meeting.
No,
Is,
we need to approve it. We need to approve it.
well, I would like to still have myself more conversations. So if a trustee feels that way, if they would say so moved to table the general fund budget fiscal year to the next regular board meeting. Or we can enter into discussion.
Well, if we do a motion and second it, we'd enter into a discussion anyway.
Well, not actually to table,
Oh, that's true.
not to
I
table.
stand corrected. Well, I have some, okay, interesting. I have some concerns that I have not had adequately addressed yet. So yeah, I wouldn't mind buying some more time. So I'm gonna so move that.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I have a few concerns too. I'll second.
Second. Okay, we're gonna call for a vote. All those in favor of tabling the budget till the next regular meeting?
Mr. Chairman, can we have some discussion on this or?
It's actually a motion to table if you would like to. Is there something you would like to say? sir?
Well, it's kind of catching me off guard here a little bit. I didn't see this coming. And, can we afford the time to do this?
Mr. President, Mr. Chair. Sorry,
Yes, sir.
President.
Trustee
Chair.
Banducci.
Well, I was looking at Nick because the question would probably go to Sarah, but my understanding is we have to have the budget approved by June 30th and we have another meeting before that.
Yes, we do.
So we should have time. Yes, sir. If I understand that correctly.
So.
And
That's-
our next meeting is pretty early in the month of June also, right? June 7th.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, 7th.
Okay.
So then we're going to call for the vote. All those in favor of tabling this agenda item, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
I'm going to abstain on this one.
That would mean the motion passes 2-1. Chair Banducci votes aye. Trustee Banducci votes aye. Trustee Wagoner votes aye. Trustee Corkle abstains, and Trustee Zimmerman, getting that right this time, forgive me,
you.
voted nay, and the chair doesn't need to vote. So motion passes. Okay. New business, action to adopt a board response to votes of no confidence. I would like to start at this. I just want to thank Trustee Zimmerman for contributing to this. President Swain contributed, provided a review before, and I feel we were headed to a 5-0 vote just from the sentiment and not violating open meeting law. It just if I would have rolled the dice 2 weeks ago, I feel like that's where I would have bet. But tonight, I don't feel like we're going to get that tonight. And I'm also going to request that we table this response to votes of no confidence. I would really like a 5-0 vote for this instead of a 3-2 or 4-1 or or anything. So if I don't get that, then it'll come to an agenda. I'm open to hearing ideas.
Got a
from-
5-0 vote.
Well, I think I'll.
No? Okay.
If, though, then again, we only have till May 30th and our meeting is June 7th. So that's definitely new information that changes my calculation on this. I would like to include this into our response to the NWCC commission letter, but I think moving forward this college at the proper time and at the proper way and makes me sad that I don't think we'll get there with the 5-0 vote tonight. So
Calling for a motion, Mr. Chair?
I'm calling for a motion to table this until the next time this board comes to meet together. So hopefully we don't have I look forward to voting for it myself then, but if there's any additions or contributions that any members want to go to get to a 5-0 vote, I'm absolutely welcome to spend the time to edit it here. But I don't think, so if there is no motion to table, then we shall continue with the vote. I'll give it a second to think.
I'll make the motion to table.
I hear no second to the motion. I hear no second to the motion. The motion fails. Proceeding with the agenda. On the floor is the action to adopt board response to votes of no confidence. Is there a motion to approve the response to the votes of no confidence? Is someone willing to make that motion to approve the votes of no confidence?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Zimmerman made the motion to approve the board's response to votes of no confidence. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Corkle, seconded. Open the discussion before the vote, board. Trustee Banducci.
Had a week to consider what I might say tonight. It's been an interesting week. And I don't want to come across as the angry guy or anything, so maybe I can just share a few thoughts. And why I'm not going to vote to accept this at this time. I hope to be able to accept it in the future. Again, I want to thank John and the folks for their statement. I've been attacked literally all 11 years I've been on this board. I've been threatened. I've had people holding the "Love Lives Here" sign while they were flipping me off and F-bombing me, and grandmothers in the front row sticking their tongues out at me, and gentlemen, one of which I don't know where he went, he was just sitting over there, and others aggressively coming up here to the point where we've had to put this up. We've had to have security around us, security parking spots to watch our cars, security to get in and out of the building, security's around our wives if they actually brave enough to come to these meetings, or I get my 3 biggest friends to surround my wife if she comes to this meeting. We've been doxxed publicly. Right on the CDA press site, my home was doxxed. One of our former trustees doxxed me at a meeting in Post Falls while one of our staff was actually on that panel while they were coming at us. I can keep going down the list of things. What are the optics? You know, to being angry with the state of workplace violence in this country right now, is anything that happened last Tuesday acceptable to any of you? If you support this or encourage it, you need to get in the mirror and check yourself. Do you know what that does to the people in a building when someone comes in and commits an act like that? It shakes them up for days. You know, there's a lot of collateral damage, especially for younger employees, younger female employees. It was very frightening for them. Put yourself in your spot. Poor little receptionist was apologizing to me because he got by her. I had to let her know, hey, that's not on you. There's nothing you could have done. And in fact, it might have been worse. You might have been injured somehow. He might have bowled you right over. Or who knows what would have happened if she'd have confronted him. In the state of mind, after being here, I'd like to know how the exit interview went. Apparently he was here, he turned in his ID, his key, and then raced himself up to my office. So obviously there was a lot of emotion going on. But we look at the things that are going on. When you dox me personally, you dox my business. That's what and then the paper writes on Tuesday, oh, well, I don't support that. Or there's other things working on the machinations behind about legislation and emails that are going between legislators and city officials and how we're going to try to undermine the college, the local authority, or the elected officials of the college. And then more cover from the press. I gave the press 2 statements today. We'll see if they have the honest journalistic integrity to print them both. I'd sure love to see it. Gave them my statement. I'm going to read it to you because Ms. Rumpler, on behalf of the college, put mine out because KHQ did the interview with the gentleman. So we sent it to Mr. Webb, and then KXLY asked for it. And I know we released it to them. And Spokesman Review, I know, got it. I don't believe they've printed it. The one-sided journalism, the hostility, when you foment that, and I'm looking right at you too, because you're right there too. There's so many of you folks that have been party to this. And I hope those of you that don't agree with that sort of approach, I hope you would withdraw from that and not support it. We're still North Idaho, but we're doing the same things we see on the national news now. What's next? I mean, look at the newspaper, look at the blotter from the sheriff. Aren't we better than that? I grew up here. It's very disappointing and it's sad. And we have young ladies in my office that are still talking about what happened a week ago. And it shook them. So if anybody took glee in what happened to me, again, you need to examine yourself closely because what's in your heart? That's a hardness and a darkness that sort of hate and anger, that diminishes you and that's holding on to you and it's going to make you less and that's hurting you from the inside out. So if that's where you're at, and I won't start preaching about it, but there's a higher power that can help you here. But you got to work with that. And I feel sorry for you if that's where you're at. If we can't have a civil discourse, you can agree with me all you want, but you don't know me and you just want to hate me. That's okay. I don't hate you. You can disagree with me. I'll read my statement, but I just hope everybody does a little check because again, a million examples. 3 councilmen helped lead the riot we had here. Now he said some nice things today and I appreciate that, but he was one of the 3 when we had a riot on a Saturday meeting. Can you imagine if 3 of us went and did that at their meeting? It's just common courtesy. It's support going back and forth. I mentioned that to one of the constituents previously at a meeting. You guys have been no confidence in us and saying negative things and that continues to foment an attitude and a feel. People, instructors have stolen clipboards. They've been accused of pulling fire alarms. They've body checked an elected official at one of our meetings. They've now attacked me. We are better than that. But if that's the tone and the tenor we set, as a senior officer in the military, my troops looked at me to see how we were going to act. And I set the example. Everybody needs to set that example. And as a college, some of our people well, we all haven't done very good. We can do better. And I would like to encourage us all to do better. So here's the statement that I released that has not been posted, at least not yet by the press locally. And I put this out on Wednesday afternoon, the 17th. While I acknowledge the rights of people to be able to agree to disagree, yesterday's actions by Mr. Schaubetter crossed the line and are unacceptable. He terrorized and traumatized individuals working in our building. It is hard to know what the full impact will be on our employees and their families. I reviewed the interview Mr. Schaubetter gave to KHQ. Clearly, this is a troubled individual who has misrepresented the facts of our encounter. Violent events in the workplace create a sense of fear and vulnerability for everyone involved. I appreciate President Swain's email to me last night where he shared information to provide greater context. Dr. Swain wrote, in parentheses, the reason for his 1-year contract had nothing to do with you or the board or any adverse action, so his actions make no sense to me. End quote. I hope no one condones Mr. Schaubetter's targeted violent behavior. Separate from me, His actions harmed many innocent bystanders who were only at work doing their jobs. Moving forward, I hope this gentleman can get the help he needs. Toning down the rhetoric has to come from all sides. I have personally tried hard through the last couple of years, which have been pretty trying, to not personally attack or write things to the paper or go after people individually or yell or cuss or scream or threaten them. If we all could reciprocate that back and forth, I think that would go a long way to helping. If I can feel comfortable that people are actually in that spirit, then I'll be more inclined to participate in the acknowledgement. But the whole time we're under these threats of accreditation, there are some simple acts that could have been done by everybody and yet the aggressive nature of and actions just continued, and it was a pile on. And in my mind, I don't understand how people thought that was helpful. Threaten and attack. It should have been obvious a couple, 3 years ago, I wasn't going to quit. And to come after a decorated veteran, I guess at least he came after me this time, but it'd be better, if it doesn't involve everybody in my building. So I put that out there and I shared that with you. And again, if the press would be so kind, I would appreciate if they would post my statement so everybody can see it. And I would also hope, there's other statements that been put out. I provided another one from another organization. But I do appreciate hearing some of the words that I did here tonight. But again, John in particular, I do thank you guys because you were preemptive. You were right on it. And you made a real point. I know it was heartfelt. And I actually had the opportunity to run into Christy at Staples after this kind of was coming down this past week. And she was with a mutual friend and a client of mine and had a lovely visit. And I didn't even recognize her initially as we were visiting. And then we introduced ourselves and I could tell it was sincere from you guys. So thank you. I'm done, sir.
Thank you. I would like to say something, and this is off the cuff and not written down, so bear with me. But just because you have the votes to pass this, you have to think. I mean, I wrote this response of votes and no confidence. I mean, it would not have gotten here if it weren't for me. And I'm not going to be voting for this response to votes and no confidence. Just because you have the votes to do something doesn't mean you necessarily should do that. And I think now is not the time to pass this response of votes and no confidence. I greatly care. I care about these votes and no confidence. I care about our accreditation response. What this means is we don't get to put this in to the NWCC commission letter. The putting in at a 3-2 vote to the commission letter may be the better thing because it shows that we respect the board decisions when made even on the 3-2 decision, which is fair. I would have loved to have put that we passed this response of votes of no confidence to the 5-0, but I will not be voting it myself if it comes down to it. So, any other discussion? Trustee Corkle.
Mr. Chairman, I would have to agree with you that a 5-0 vote would be the best route to take. And I'm not sure we'll have time to draft another response prior to our final report to the commission.
That's true.
I didn't make the motion, but I seconded it. And if you want to proceed with the vote, I'll do so.
Let's proceed with the vote. Unless anyone else has anything they want to say. All those in favor of passing this board response to vote to no confidence, say aye.
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 That's 3 votes aye. That's Trustee Wagoner, Trustee Corkle, Trustee Zimmerman. All those opposed to this board response to vote to no confidence, say nay.
I will say nay.
Nay. The chair is going to vote nay. Board response to votes of no confidence, 3-2. Board policy subcommittee report.
I was going to introduce that.
Trustee Wagner, thank you very much.
Okay, so a number of us have been working for a while on updating all of the policies, the board policies. We're not working on the college policies. And the issue is that many of them are old. And the NWCCU has indicated they would like to see those updated. So we're doing that. Have been working on it quite handily. So I'll just read a little bit that's here, and then I'm going to add a little bit to clarify something that we're doing. Background, the NIC Board of Trustees established a subcommittee of the board to review and develop revisions for the board's internal governance policies. The subcommittee comprises trustees Terry Zimmerman and Mike Wagner, President Nick Swain, Board Clerk Shannon Goodrich, and ACCT consultant Debbie D. Thomas, and Ken Burke has also been involved from time to time. The subcommittee has met several times over the past few months and is bringing forward several policies to the May board meeting today to review, discuss, and hopefully approve. These revised documents are included here as attachments. And additionally, I wanted to just clarify something for those not familiar with the policies approach. Board policies, I guess we could say, are at the 10,000 foot level. They're not detail oriented. They're supposed to be general guidelines, and think of them as ways to keep you on the road, so to speak, the guardrails. Then the school has traditionally had policies and procedures, and the procedures then are the how to drive down the road. So what I anticipate that we will need to do, and there's quite a bit of work that we've already done, but there's more left to do, is to go through the policies and then update them. Then we'll need to update the procedures and then update the policies where we find additional information as we do the procedures, and maybe get some more eyes on them. We'll go ahead and then mesh or sync up the policies with the procedures, and then hopefully we're done at that point. It's quite a bit of work.
Okay, if I could,
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Corkle.
I just want to take a brief moment and thank Trustee Wagner and Trustee Zimmerman for taking time out of their schedules to do this. I know it's a lot of work and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. I'll say the same, but in interest of time, that's all I'll say. So do we want to make a motion to pass an individual policy and talk about the individual one? I think we should do policy by policy, do inputs. So I think what you just said, to go back there, is because I was going to make a complaint before you said that, but I interpret some of these policies, mainly the G, the last one, which is a first reading, as having some vagueness to them still. And what my goal is no matter if you're in the minority, as in like if you're going against a 3-2 board or something like that, and if you're the 2 on the board, which that you interpret the policy the same as when you're in, like say the majority of the 3-2 board, you interpret the policy the same. I have some examples when we get to G. I'd like to read for everybody. But so
I'd recommend we start it just because what Trustee Wagner didn't mention is that A through F had minimal changes, and they are recommending that those be approved on first read because there were minimal changes. And then, as you noted, G requires some significant updates. And so if we could maybe approve the A through F and then get to G where it has more acknowledging that there's more work to be done. This is just a first read.
Yeah.
Review.
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Wagner. Trustee Banducci, there you are.
I would like to have us consider one, I'll call it a ground rule. As we're looking at these and approving these and we're updating them, some of which are quite old and it's appropriate, I'd like to have the understanding that this will not be the last look at these, so they don't sit there for another 30 years. What I'd like to encourage everybody is if we pass these, say A, B, C, D, and F, is that everybody sees these updated policies, and please feel free to review them. And then if somebody has some good suggestions or feedback or whatever, I'd like to think of these as being under constant review or dynamically reviewable, if you will. You know, not that we're going to change every period or comma or semicolon, you know, every week, but if there's enough accumulated, you know, things that make sense, then, you know, but we could review it again in 6 months or a year or 3 months or whatever seems appropriate, or if there's something actually significant on the feedback. So I just want to encourage that while we're doing this, that we don't want to consider this to be a static review, that, yeah, okay, we just did it, we checked the box. And, you know, we'll see them again someday, maybe down the road. I'd like to encourage everybody, because there's a lot of smart people out there that with more eyes on these after we get them out, that people might have some wise suggestions and some good feedback as to ways we can even make these better. So that's kind of the, I guess I called it a ground rule, but
Mr. Chairman,
with the understanding.
I think what we do is have a motion here. It sounds like maybe some of these can be grouped in a single motion, and then there can be during discussion about an individual item.
Well,
a board member chooses.
let me respond to Trustee Banducci. What if we, because you're right, normally we go first policy or first read, second read, but I'm reading this. I'd like to verbalize some ideas, but I think we should pass personally. But and I would like community members also to be able to weigh in. And so obviously we didn't get much comments on this policies for public comment tonight. Normally that's why you afford 2 board meetings to give people, if you have something going on
Faculty,
tonight,
staff.
something the next thing. I would like
Smart
to
people.
demonstrate progress to NWCCU, showing that we are passing policies and demonstrable evidence. And so what if, as a compromise to you, sir, the policies that we've passed, until we're done, how long are we going to be? How is the subcommittee? Do you guys have a burn down plan?
I believe we talked about 6 months.
Oh,
It's going to take a while. And let me just assert that one of the things we're going to look at is creating some new policies. One, the procedures or policy, I need to look and make sure which one it is.
to the microphone.
That we have for creating board policies is actually embedded in the colleges. And I was gonna hope to split those 2 out. And then one part of that would be, here's the schedule for looking at these on a routine basis. So what I'm seeing, I'm hoping we're gonna do is we're gonna pass the policies. We're going to then do the procedures. We're going to come back and update the policies after more eyes are on them. And then we're going to have a schedule for updating the policies, so we never get into this situation again where the policies get to be 30 years old.
Well, and I'm hoping that either Terry or Mike, because those 2 trustees are ahead of this group, that they would tell the rest of the board what they would like to do now, either suggest a motion or something,
So
and the board can act. Maybe it's a first reading.
what if moving forward while we go through this development process, the policies that we've passed go back to the consent agenda, and then we just keep consent agenda. That way they're in the board packet, public comment can address it for future, and it's not necessarily taking up board business time. And if any, is that a compromise, Trustee Banducci?
Sure. Harry, I see you nodding. How's that sounding?
I anticipated that these A through F were basically minor changes and that they could be approved this evening, as I believe everyone's had time to look through them. There aren't any real material changes. Nothing's been crafted that's very different. So it should be pretty simple to approve these. But I also agree that, through the policies that we're going to continue working on and developing, that we have a schedule of reviewing these policies, not necessarily changing them, but just looking at them to see if we need to make any changes to them on a regular basis.
So would you be open to the consent agenda idea?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so consensus here for moving forward. The policies we passed tonight will show up for consent agenda. How about to the end of August, end of October?
Sure.
Okay.
What, for
We'll-
me,
we'll
I
we'll
can't
work
speak
at
for
it.
the rest of the folks, yeah.
We'll see.
You,
next
you,
board meeting.
what I think what you're telling me is you want to keep it visible to the board that we're working on them.
Yeah.
You pass them right now, but the visibility is out there so that we don't forget to do the second part of it.
Yeah.
That's fine. That sounds like a really good idea to
Okay.
me, anyway.
So what's the motion that puts that out there?
I don't think we need a motion. The president hears the board's desire, and I think he's happy to accommodate.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify then, are we passing A through F tonight?
I think we are going to have individual motions on the topics of A and F, and I anticipate most of them are going to pass, even though I have some input to them. I think it's going to get blown out of the water. And when they do pass A through F, that they'll be put to the consent agenda
For the next time.
next board meeting.
Okay.
And then until the board instructs otherwise.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Sounds good.
No one thinks I'm using my chair power unilaterally. Everyone's happy, okay? 'Cause that's all we're looking for. Okay. Is there a motion to pass attachment A, policy 20101, appointment authority and functions? Is there a motion? If there is, say so moved.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. The subcommittee trustees are working together on this one. So I would just like to either amend this policy, which I don't think I have the votes to do, or maybe the procedure that stems from this policy. Basically, after an election, I want the regular board meeting to be at the next opportunity. And that is mandated by either policy or procedure.
It's statute.
Yeah, it's in statute. I'm not sure I'm following you, but the way it works is in statute.
So exactly. Yet the November election that just passed, it somehow ended up in December 5th. So I want,
Greg, I'm having trouble keeping up. If you're talking about a particular paragraph or a particular line in a particular paragraph, it would be helpful.
well, I'm saying that I don't think this policy addresses it, and it needs to have a paragraph that either addresses it or the policy, the procedure associated with this policy. Does that make sense? Is anyone else understanding what I'm saying?
What you're saying is there's some additional information you want in there, and I would say that's probably not policy, that's probably procedure.
Okay,
And so, how about a motion that says, we'll put that in the procedure when we update it, but we'll approve the policy as it is right now.
deal. So
Chair McKenzie, can you state again what it is that you would like to be part of this procedure?
okay. After an election is certified by the county clerk, I want literally like the next day that the certified by the county clerk. So, or within a week time frame of that, you could say that. The next opportunity to transition trustee authority that it will be done. Does that make sense? You want me to read it
That
again?
makes
So
sense to me. Does Shannon have that in her notes? I think she.
The next
should.
opportunity to transition trustee authority, it will be
good.
done.
Okay.
After an
Okay.
election. Like,
So,
do we need to amend the motion, or is everyone on board with what's going on? I think we just need to pass the policy. You guys are hearing constructive feedback,
Right.
and your procedure probably won't get passed unless I see this in here, or at least I won't be voting for it, so. I'm
agree.
sure it'll work for it.
Well, we'll just put it in our what we call our parking lot, and make sure it gets addressed.
Thank you, sir. All right, all those in favor of passing attachment A for policy 20101, say aye.
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 I'm hearing that's 4 ayes and the chair doesn't vote. Okay, so moving on to attachment B. Is there a motion to pass attachment B?
I'll make a motion to pass attachment B.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Trustee Wagoner makes the motion. Trustee Zimmerman seconds it. Is there any discussion? I think for constructive feedback, I think the established in custom, could the procedures kind of clarify some customs that we have? I would like that. That's in the middle paragraph. And I think this one actually may be a policy we may want to consider. The Board of Trustees recognizes the right of the public to receive information concerning all of its actions, policy, and details of its, this is the last paragraph, of its educational and business operations. In accordance with this policy, copies of the agenda, and this is where I've added insert stuff, and open meeting materials provided to board members at open public meetings will be furnished to all interested persons and organizations upon request to the college president. Basically, if you're at an open meeting, I think we should have policy banning to where if our attorney stands up and hands us all a piece of paper in a public open meeting, that we should go into executive session to protect that material.
I'm not sure if that's in code for one.
Trustee Banducci.
Go ahead.
Okay. You're done. Is the thinking behind that either or that it's subject to attorney-client privilege and or it's falls under one of the categories that we're not required to disclose because of the nature of the information? Is that your thought? Is that we need to protect that information either because it's something that should not be disclosed and there's a number of categories that could fall under, or that specifically it may have attorney-client privilege? Is that your thought process on this?
Yeah, I think if you're at an open meeting and we have materials provided to all Board of Trustees, that material should be provided to the public.
So, okay, well, let me understand this. So if, I'm just gonna use Mr. McEmber right now since he's our attorney. If he hands it to us, does that mean we want to make it public at that minute? Or did you say we're going to go into executive session? I'm not sure where we were headed with this, with the documentation that we just received from the attorney. Say that again for me so I understand how you want to handle this.
Okay, I'm saying that we had an open meeting just based on past history, okay?
Hey, we're here.
We're all 5 board trustees where we're giving personnel information regarding like the presidential search committee.
Personal information, good enough. Okay.
All right, we're making decisions
So at
in an
that
open
point,
meeting
okay,
based off of information
okay.
that the public is not being provided.
So in that case, you're saying we would go to executive session and we would not disclose that information to the public?
Yes, as in to get that information that's not available to the public, you should go to executive session, which is why you have executive session.
Okay.
Right. To me, that's a good idea. Then the only question is, do we put it in the policy or do we put it in the procedure?
I propose it puts in the policy and I think the votes will just decide that. Any other thoughts on where that belongs, or is anyone against that? Trustee Corkle, Trustee Zimmerman, at an open meeting, should the public be afforded all the information that we're provided? Or that's what executive session is for.
Well, there are personnel issues that probably should not be divulged.
Which is what executive session is for.
Right.
I would say that in advance of the meeting, that material should be proposed in executive session. So if it comes and we're already in the open meeting, I think we're out of protocol at that point. So I'm not sure it's a necessary inclusion for the policy because we already have protocols and policies to address those types of communications. Before a meeting starts, we go into executive session to receive those materials and to have those conversations. So I think this complicates things a little bit. I think we already have that in place. And maybe that would not be a good practice if we were to receive information during a meeting that would be confidential. That wouldn't be appropriate anyway.
This past year has proven the very happening of that.
Well, that might be, but that doesn't mean we should write a policy. We should be looking forward, and we should be looking with what the codes that we have and looking forward to follow good protocol. Don't put a Band-Aid on something that's happened in the past.
So it happened in the past.
If it
Bad,
happened.
Mr. Chair,
bad protocol.
and Mr. McAmer, help me on this one. Did I read correctly that unless it's the only agenda item, an executive session does not have to be noted on the agenda, correct? And that you can actually call for an executive session at any time during a meeting, whether it's been noticed or not. Is that correct?
That's the statute, but what I heard from Greg was, or trustee chair,
Chair McKenzie, thank you.
was that on this last paragraph, the second line up from the bottom, it would say copies of the agenda and the full board book.
Well, the reason I'm asking that question is, do we need to put that in there, or if we establish what the actual rule is, if something like that did pop up, then we could just call an executive session if for some reason we had that unusual circumstance.
Well, you could already.
Are you feeling to
by
codify it?
statute, but I must agree with trustee Zimmerman that I don't think you need to bring it to the level of policy, because ordinarily, I think she's right, that if anybody has anything that they want to pass out at a public meeting that should be an executive session, then they should bring it in executive session. If it's passed out at a meeting and the board suddenly says, well, this is really confidential, we should be in executive session to discuss this, you could go into executive session at that point, but it's probably better to just collect the materials and have it wait, because it just indicates that there was poor planning for that event. And so I don't know if you want to put that into policy. You could, on the spur of the moment, have an executive session, but I think that's going to be such a rare event that you probably wouldn't want to encourage it by having it in the policy, because every time you put it in policy, you're going to find instances of it cropping up.
Well, no, that's why I asked the question, actually, because I'm not sure that we need to put it in, because if we did have the need for the executive session, we could call it in the unusual circumstance that came up.
So what I'm hearing is two things. One, you want to make sure that all the board book information is available to the public. And two, in the exception that it is sensitive information and is confidential, then you want to treat it differently. Am I understanding what you're trying to do?
No. Maybe I'll get a word draft to this and propose it for future board meetings. So it's okay. Night's getting long. So.
Okay, so what do you want to do here? Do we pass it as is and then modify it, or what do you want to do?
For now, I'll put on my long list of things to do that I would like to visit when I have time. Yes.
Yeah, I not to put more burden on Terry and Mike, but it sounds like they've kind of got a calendar. They're going to be working on this for a while. If there's something, yeah, this could swing back around. So we could work on this again, revisit it if you think you have something that you want to add.
I'd like to see if we could go ahead and pass the policy with this one minor change, and then Mike and I can put this on our parking lot also to take your suggestions at a future date and revise it again.
Okay. All those in favor of passing the policy as highlighted here with no handwritings, say aye.
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 Trustee Corporal, you're voting aye? That's 4-0, and the chair is not going to vote. Okay. Attachment C. Is there a motion to pass attachment C as printed?
I'll make that motion to pass.
Is there a second to pass attachment C? Trustee Corkle, trustee Wagoner made the motion, trustee Corkle seconded it. Thank you. So the main changes for the audience to this end, the Board of Trustees will, instead may, conduct a third-party comprehensive performance review of its stewardship every 2 years and an abbreviated review every other year. I just have written down examples of third-party review, such as ACCT trainings or guidance like that for those that unfamiliar. In reading it, there's many, we have to consider, just the average public's not so familiar with these policies. What kind of reviews does the board do? But that may not be appropriate for a policy. Is there any
Sounds like-
appetite for that?
It sounds like procedure.
Okay. All those in favor, any other discussion? All those in favor of passing this policy as printed, say aye.
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 That's 4-0. The motion passes. All those, is there a motion to pass attachment D as printed?
I make the motion to pass D as printed.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion, trustee Zimmerman made a motion to pass attachment D and trustee Wagoner seconded it. I had thoughts on there. I think it needs to be written in policy. Who's carrying out, wait. Maybe this is, I'll just express an opinion. It's getting late. I'm sorry for those who want to go home. I think it should be written in there. I'll just say it. You all can write it down and chew on it for your subcommittee. Would it be proper to add a bullet just highlighting that, clarifying board development is the president's responsibility in this policy, just for?
It's in B.
It's in B.
Provided by the president.
Okay, there it is. Okay, all those in favor of passing this as printed, say aye.
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 That's 4-0. The motion passes. Moving, so did anyone want to introduce the North Idaho College trustee affirmation statement? So this policy has passed. Did that include the
It
North
did.
Idaho College?
Yes,
It did.
It did, okay. All those is there a motion to pass attachment E? Is that what we're on?
We're on E.
Thank you. Is there a motion? I'm a trustee Zimmerman.
Sure, I make the motion.
Thank you. Trustee Wagner.
Second.
Seconded. Okay. Trustee Zimmerman made the motion. Trustee Wagner seconded. Discussion. This is a policy I think we should table. And I don't think we should pass tonight. I think, yes. I'm happy to give more reasons if people want me to elaborate. Any other discussion and thoughts on this?
Chair McKenzie,
Trustee Zimmerman.
in order to go back as a committee and provide a meaningful update or change, we would need some insight into the reasons why you think this should be tabled. Again, this is a policy that can be reviewed and reviewed in the future. Again, we've only added the Idaho code that reflects this policy, and we've changed the word from appointed to elected because we do elect the president. So I would invite you to follow what we've done previously in other policies and consider approving this policy with the thought that if there's something that you think needs to be changed or revisited, that we do that at a later date in our parking lot.
Okay, then you shall extrapolate my thoughts from me. Basically, not to be harsh or anything, but we were just sued over the vagueness in this policy. And I don't see any changes to address that vagueness. And with
Good point.
current situations and litigation going on, any changes I feel would be inappropriate to introduce right now.
The change is to the word elected and to cite Idaho code.
I'm saying that I think this policy needs a lot more contributions to it. And I don't feel it appropriate for me to present those right now. Trustee Banducci.
Chair McKenzie. Not trying to take sides here, just discussion. I had some concerns with this well, I still have some concerns with this policy. And I understand the two corrections that were made, which makes sense. It seems weird to talk about electing a president, but I guess we do take a vote, so technically we're electing him. Think of hiring. I'm with you, though. I can see a number of things about this policy that could be improved. So I guess the question becomes, and you have a right to say no to this, and so I respect that, and I can go either way myself on this. Would this be one of the policies where if it was approved now with the promise of it going into, what do you guys call that, your toolbox? Parking lot? Something like that. Yeah, where there's a couple of these that you want to provide some input to, and maybe it might allow me a couple more moments to have some thoughts on it also. Would that be a reasonable compromise for you just to update it now and then with the promise from trustees Zimmerman and Wagner that they would be willing to address this again and incorporate additional thoughts?
My simple answer is no. I've stated my piece,
Okay.
but I can understand your logic in thinking that.
Nope, fair enough. Fair enough. I will say no more. Thank you,
All
sir.
those in favor of passing attachment E, say aye.
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 That's 3 votes. Trustee Banducci. Are you abstaining, voting no, voting yes?
I'm going to abstain on it.
Okay, the motion passes. That is 3-0. Let the record show that trustee Corkle, trustee Zimmerman, trustee Wagner passed this motion. Trustee Banducci abstained and the chair didn't vote. So moving on. Attachment F. This is not still the one that you were hoping to pass. Is there a motion to pass attachment F as printed
I have a change.
of the printed?
Yes.
Trustee Zimmerman.
Chair McKenzie, the red line says an external evaluator will be selected by the board to assist in evaluation the president. I mean, it's small and minor. I think it should be to assist in the evaluation of the president.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna consider that a friendly amendment and alter the motions. If we could just back out to, I'm just gonna say the motion to
Trustee Zimmerman, would you repeat that one more time, please?
assist in the evaluation of the president.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Isn't that the board's job to evaluate the president?
Well,
Trustee Banducci.
if I may ask a question, this could be answered by either trustee Zimmerman or trustee Wagner. Help me understand what that looks like, what the use of an external evaluator looks like, because actually Chairman McKenzie preempted my question when I saw this, because it is our job and our role as the board to evaluate, and we've used some, and I've been on the board longer than all of you, obviously, and I've used probably a couple, three different questionnaires, I guess, for lack of a better term, of how we evaluate. Shannon has worked with us as we've developed the different ones that we've used over the years. I've got examples of several. So how does an external evaluator, what is their role in this process from either of you?
To, if I may, to provide professional assistance in structuring it and any materials, but the actual performing of the evaluation would be by the board.
Chair, I would agree. Yes, so we contract with them, but we are actually doing the evaluating.
So you'll see the word there, assist,
Yes.
and that's key, right?
So I'm looking at this board policy, if I may, and I'm just noticing that there's no designation of an evaluator. And so I just input there myself inferred an external evaluator from ACT or from where. I think would be helpful to the policy so that the board, when it plans for an evaluation, can know who they're going to go to, who's going to assist them, and can have some basic idea of how the process will work, which would then be in procedure, I'm sure.
So,
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Banducci.
this might be a little out of procedure. Shannon, I'm looking at you here because we worked on this together many times. It seems to me that the last template that we used was one that had been produced by ACCT. And then we contracted, or maybe we did it in-house, help me remember, where all the answers were submitted and then they were tabulated and compiled, and we did all that. And I can't remember who did that compilation for us. It was done in-house. Okay. But there was a way we did it where each of us had the link, we dropped it in our results, and then it was done in an anonymous way and then scored. Okay. So we were using ACCT materials, but we were able to compute those in-house to give us the aggregate results.
And I don't think that this prevents that. We had an additional discussion where we said doing it in-house then might have some of the people in the school knowing what was going on in the president's staff, and maybe that isn't a good idea.
Okay.
So if we do it some type of external could be by setting it up the way the question is, or the statement is, they still can come in and they could do something minimal, or they could do something extensive, whatever the board feels is appropriate.
Just discussion, an external evaluator will be selected, may be selected. Will is kind of saying you will do it this way. May means recommended.
Chair, based upon our conversations and guidance from Dr. Debbie Thomas and Ken Burke, we specifically put that language in there that will be selected, not may, to remove that conflict that Trustee Wagner just brought up.
Well, this is good because this is sort of where I was driving with my question. What precipitated this extra sentence and what was the thought process behind it? And so that's good. I'm glad we were able to flesh that out. It gives me more context.
Do we have external evaluators like right now? I mean, I think on the agenda.
ACCT.
So like that's kind of like what we're doing right now, as you're saying, is just, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so actually I'd say in the past, we've used improperly, maybe, used ACCT material and done it in-house where that was copyright material. So we really should not have done it that way. So we've contracted with ACCT and they like for mine now, it's a very similar survey. They do it, compile it, and then send it back to the board for, after they've done all their analysis, they send that back to the board with the conclusions. So that's all they do is just pull it in, compile it, and then give it back to the board so that Shannon or, none of the other staff on campus have to do that work. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not expensive.
Is that starting soon, or like, how does it work for us? Like,
We contract them for quarterly evaluations, if you recall, back in October. And that was $3,000 for the year to do that and provide feedback back to the board. So on that survey style format.
okay. Okay, is there any other discussion on this topic? All those in, trustee Banducci? All, go for it. All those in favor of passing this motion, so I do believe we said as printed in the motion, so I'm going to
With minor edits.
With minor edits.
modify.
Well, it would be an amendment to the motion. You could vote on the amendment, or you could just say the motion is,
Shannon has,
you say you should have multiple votes if you're following strict Robert's rules,
I
but they're
think-
just guidance.
I think we're gonna back it all out real quick. That'll be
Oh,
the fastest.
I don't know
Everyone-
that we made a motion on this one yet.
There was no motion.
There's no motion. Okay. Then, is there a motion to pass this as printed with trustee Zimmerman's minor edits of the words "the" and "of" to assist in the evaluation of the president? I think that covers everything. Trustee Zimmerman, I'm seeing a head nod for a motion. Trustee Wagoner, your mouth is open. I see a second.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of passing the motion before the board, say aye.
Aye.
I hear 4 votes and the motion is passed. Moving to first reading of attachment policy G. All meetings of the NIC Board of Trustees will be noticed to the publics in accordance with Idaho code. That seems pretty legit. Updated Idaho code numbers, all regular meetings. Okay.
Is this the one, I'm sorry. Mr. Chair,
Trustee Banducci.
trustee Zimmerman, trustee Wagner, is this the one you guys are indicating that you might have a little more thought on and want to look at and take some time to chew on a little bit? Is that what I was understanding? This is the one we want to chew on a little bit, present it tonight for a first read and then have some time to review it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So the motion would be just for first reading.
Then there's no motion. We've got it. It's been presented as first reading. It's for information purposes. So we can take it back and review it and
I
ask
think
questions.
I
as
would like to
appropriate.
provide,
You have a comment you want to?
You want to provide, just provide that trustee Wagner then, and so that it can be incorporated for the second read or considered for the second read?
Yeah, there's been technically no motion, so we don't have to have discussion.
you're saying like after the meeting?
Yeah, just send him an email that says, hey, I read it. Here's some feedback.
Well-
Just for your information, Chair Mackenzie, we're meeting again on the 7th in the morning before the next meeting.
So we can reconsider it.
Good.
So we
Okay.
can reconsider it then. Yes.
Okay, well, if I emailed trustee Wagner and then he relayed it to trustee Zimmerman, that would be 3 trustees having,
No, you're sent to
No,
the
this will be in a
subcommittee.
committee,
It's a subcommittee.
committee
You're
meeting.
sending, you're handing it.
You send it to both of them at the same time. You're just giving an input to the subcommittee on a policy.
okay, then I'm gonna do it this way. I have written agenda, if anyone want input that I'm handing to trustee Wagner. If anyone wants it, you may have it. Is that good enough for everyone? Nobody wants an open meeting law violation here, so.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't even feel comfortable with that. I'm gonna just read my stuff, and sorry, guys, it's 5 minutes. If you want to make a motion and override your chair, you're welcome to, but I'm gonna just read it out loud so everyone sees it, because that's what I think open meetings are for. I would like that, or any chair should have the ability to just call regular and special meetings, and the chair, I think after an election, it should transition the chairship automatically after a certified election. And I think that for a board of trustees meetings, I think that the board chair should be identified and on when meetings occur and location. Naturally, two trustees can call a meeting, but I think it'd be wise if the chair also had that ability. So for special meetings, the Board of Trustees may be called to address a specific concern or issue. Special meetings may be called. Does this require that for a special meeting that the specific current concern or issue needs to be identified at that meeting? I don't think it does, but just I vaguely doesn't need to be identified on the agenda. So I think that needs to be clarified here. Okay. And then how items are placed on the agenda by the president or a board member through the president for publication by the executive assistant to the president. So items should be requested with enough background information so the college may be prepared to respond to ideas and concerns of the board. Maybe respond to ideas with enough background information and time for the college.
Right.
But the part I have great heartburn with, items may be placed on the agenda by the president or a board member through the president for publication by the executive assistant to the president. So I found some past communications, I think, relevant to read here, just to understand, like, we're trying to remove vagueness. So in the future, if I ever find myself in the non-chairship and tossed to the winds minority that's not cared about as in my recent past, there was a time when I tried to get important issues to me that I feel the public needed to know about, and that they were denied to me because of the vagueness of this. And I think there needs to be a policy to where individual trustees can put any agenda item on there. And then if there's a tussle, we'll call it that then the board basically decides when it meets what agenda items it wants. So if that trustee's agenda items, he puts 50 items on there, let him make an ass of himself, and the board will just narrow it down to what it needs. Trustee Banducci.
Well, I didn't know where you were going with this. But now that you've arrived, you've got me thinking about this because of one of the recent lawsuits. One of my emails was referenced, and my email was actually addressed to Chair Wold at that time. Kind of used out of context otherwise, but the point there was I was unhappy with the unilateral control of the agenda, and that we hadn't been given a draft and hadn't been given the opportunity to have input on the agenda. So I think I would like to see some sort of a clarification, because I've now experienced that under three different regimes. And I had one board chair that kind of got away with some that trustees' own interpretations of how we could put something on the agenda. So which kept me from really putting anything on the agenda for a while when I was a new trustee. So I think definitely something there in the language as we're working on this document would be helpful to clarify that, because I don't like anybody to muscle that as the board chair or to ignore the board as the president. So, yeah, I would like to see some additional language there, sir.
So
Yeah.
just, I found an email, I'll read it as written at the time. And it's written to Dr. Swain. This past year, the quit and disgrace trustee Wood incessantly complained about the chair having no more power than any other trustee on the board. And despite any evidence of Chair Banducci doing anything beyond what was afforded any of us of other trustees, she even lacked any examples. And I say, Dr. Swain, you respecting solely what Chair Wold wishes the agenda to be is not following policy. That is according to Lyons' past interpretations of policies applied and NIC's policy manual. Lawyer Lyons may be saying something else now, whenever convenient, but with observational experience, that's just because whoever whispers in his ears what he knows to now repeat they want to hear. It's your decision to do the right thing, follow policy, and respect trustees' rights, even when may not have the majority votes. Respectfully, Greg. And BS, I find it sad that as a last resort is for me to public records, request a public organization that is supposed to be transparent and higher place of learning. So this policy, how agenda items get on the agenda need serious work, as in possibly third reading. And then also,
So how do we make sure that we have your input and everybody's input to our subcommittee?
well, we're giving it to you right now.
Okay, and you're getting it?
Well, and also, sorry,
Trustee Banducci.
Mr. Chair, are you, oh, sorry, Mike, are you done?
I'm done. Go ahead.
Well, because this is a working document at this time, I'm calling it a draft.
Right.
First read. But let us, at least for myself, I'm not trying to speak for Chair McKenzie. Let me chew on it a little bit more, and maybe I can come up with a coherent input for you and Terry on this. Try to get it to you. I mean, I know we've just had a dialogue, and I know you've heard what I said. See if I can do better than that to give you more, but I'd just like to make it clear in whatever language we use that each of us as trustees have a right to have an input on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yeah.
What I suggest the committee do is accept input from any member of the board so that they can work on it in the parking lot or wherever it is, but that the Idaho Code, specifically section 74204, provides requirements for agendas for public entity meetings. And if you use that as a superstructure, the only thing you will not find in there is who in the public entity gets to set the agenda. The one thing, the place where you start there is these are for board meetings. So if the chair calls the meeting, then it's the chair who sets that agenda, if it's a special meeting. And then agendas can be changed before a meeting or at the meeting under certain circumstances. And so the question really becomes who gets to initiate and make those changes when those circumstances occur under the structure of the code. And just following that methodology, I think you'll resolve this fairly quickly, and you could flesh it out, if you will, and make it more specific.
To your point, this could be taken negatively. I don't mean for it to be taken that way, but it is called the Board of Trustees meeting, so we should have final say or discretion on our agenda.
So do you guys have and then going out forward, Shannon, if you would write down, I think the public may wish to correct any minutes before they're approved. So if the order of business at regular meetings would be convene meeting minutes, public comment, and then approval of minutes, I think that would be better. So switch 2 and 3 is what I have. And then I think the Board of Trustees reserves the right to alter or amend the order of the agenda. I would just recommend just add in the wordings at the discretion of the chair or controlled through board motion on how that happens. Just clarify that. And if we could, so are we done with 20103?
Yeah, it was a first reading unless there's any more comments.
Okay.
Anything down there, you guys?
Moving back. I'm gonna move us backwards to attachment policy B, when it comes to communications with the Board of Trustees. So the president is North Idaho College's official voice and the general agent through whom members of the college community, faculty, staff, and students normally address communication to the Board of Trustees. These presidential functions are established in custom and in board policy. It is therefore a regular operating procedure for official communications to the Board of Trustees that originate within North Idaho College to be routed through administrative channels to the president, unless otherwise directed by the president. Actually, this is referring to constituent groups. I think mine goes to the board conduct policy is what I have. I'll say my inputs for 22110. All right, moving forward, the vaccine mandate.
One
Yes.
thing, just going back, I'm not sure that we were clear on attachment E, presidential authority. What we were tending to do was approve it, but also put it in our list of things to update.
Yes.
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 Did we made that? Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, going to the vaccine mandate has my name there. So implemented in December of 2020, was it December? As Shannon, we're fully correct on that date. It wasn't January, December. Okay. December 2021, the Board of Trustees implemented a COVID-19 vaccine mandate for the NIC Head Start program. That was basically federal government guidance as a
Requirement, I guess.
requirement for performance standard. Help me out. I think it was. And Idaho, Attorney General Wasden at the time decided to not fight it in court. Texas decided to fight them in court, among other states, and they won. And so because of their efforts, they got I think a national injunction, if I recall that right. And they rolled back that standard. So we no longer have to have a vaccine mandate. And so I'm thrilled to make the motion myself to remove the COVID-19 vaccine mandates implemented in December 21 by the NIC Board of Trustees for the NIC Head Start program, and make clear that there are no health mandates at North Idaho College or any of its overseeing programs at this time.
Is there a motion? I think he just made the motion. I'll second it. Chair make the motion.
I guess if we say and things we oversee at this time, does that include area aging? Do they have a COVID vaccine mandate?
No.
Good. Okay. I'll read the motion again. Motion to remove the COVID-19 vaccine mandate implemented in December 21 by the NIC Board of Trustees for the NIC Head Start program and make clear there are no health mandates in place at North Idaho College and things this board oversees at this time.
And I did second that.
Sees at this time. Is there any discussion? Trustee Corkle, Trustee Zimmerman? All those in favor of this motion passing, say aye.
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 All right, all those opposed, say nay. The chair does not vote. Motion passes 4-0.
I think it was a good vote. I see Beth Ann smiling.
So I just want to make clear, Head Start is a great program, has lots of support from this Board of Trustees. It was a tough vote at the time, and we appreciate that we're far in the past of that. So good start. Good job, Head Start educators. Also, I want to have a discussion this was vaccine mandates in general for North Idaho College. There's been, let's see, I got this wording down. Wrong.
Mr. Chairman, you might want to stick to the menu. the
Well, it
agenda.
is titled vaccine mandate. I mean, I don't.
Well, it says vaccine mandate for Head Start program.
You don't have the updated agenda.
That was,
sir.
that was updated just to.
Oh,
Just a
to
standalone
remove the Head
vaccine.
Start program?
Yes. Sir, not to dispute you, but mine says just vaccine.
Go ahead and
mandate.
dispute me. Everybody else does.
I'm not even gonna go there tonight.
Thank you.
It was updated. Okay.
Okay, so there's been many concerns to me about the clinicals and vaccine mandates associated with clinicals for students. It's my impression that the students are in a catch-22, and it's a delicate situation because we do have partners who work for us, but it's important enough to me to bring it before you, board, and I don't
We're
have
working
the
on it. We're working on it.
authority
Yeah.
to, I don't want to just unilaterally, and the reason why I'm bringing it to the board here is because it does take time to work and prepare, and I want a consensus amongst the board that this is an important topic that the board cares about, and that time should be used to present before the board on this topic. Basically, many students have complained about being pressured into receiving COVID vaccine mandate, and I've relayed that information, and so that is something.
It's a, I will provide regular updates on that in the future. It is a very dynamic situation because we, you know, the pandemic was just officially called off. And so over the next couple of months, I expect most of the facilities that we work with will reduce that. We are also working on creating policies and procedures to create internal waivers that the students can use. Unfortunately, there are only 2 facilities right now that accept institutional waivers, and they only handle 2 students each. So even if we grant waivers, it won't make a demonstrable difference in our capacity. One of the challenges that the facilities have is that 90% of the people serving patients have to be vaccinated, and that rule hasn't backed off yet. And so they reserve that. One of the differences between employees and students is they're reserving that 90% for their employees so that they have a capacity to provide waivers to their employees. And that means they're not granting waivers to us. That will change over time, but that's one of the challenges that we have. And even if we granted waivers, they still wouldn't accept them because they have to have 90% of the caregivers vaccinated. I think that'll change over time, but right now that's where the catch-22 comes in. And there's, even if we granted waivers, that we can't get around that because the institutions won't accept them.
So this is the type of
That's current.
conversation that I want
That's- yeah,
presented to
that's
the
correct.
board
Yeah.
to have current factual information. Is this?
That's
a
as of
topic-
yesterday.
Is this a topic that the board
Yeah.
wants to come before it?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question, and maybe Erlene can help on this one. Sorry not to put you on the spot, but you're probably the closest thing to a resident expert that we have, or at least a subject matter expert. Are you okay with that? Mr. President?
I don't think people have
I
prepared
prefer
for
not
tonight.
to do that now. I don't want to put her on the spot. And we spoke yesterday. She gave me the latest.
Well, okay, here's my question. I'll throw it to you and she can nod at you. My understanding is that Northwest Specialty Hospital and KMC have gotten rid of the mask mandate, and that we have called off the pandemic. So do we not have an estimated time of when the COVID, I'm not going to call it a vaccine, the COVID shot, whatever you want to call it, when that's not going to be mandatory? Because I know at the VA, because that's driven at the federal level differently, we still have to wear masks. I was there this morning for some treatment on my back. I got injured in active duty. So if everybody's wondering, that's my back. I fractured my back serving. So I have problems with my back. So I was getting worked on at the physical therapy this morning. But we have to wear masks at the VA, at the clinic here and at the hospital in Spokane. And so, and I don't know what their shot policy is now. I don't have one. I was in a religious accommodation.
Medicare,
Even while I'm
Medicaid.
still serving at the
Yeah.
Guard.
Medicare, Medicaid is where those are coming from. So the hospitals that get support from those, that's where the mandate is still coming. So again, Erlene, when I spoke with her, said there are some of those changes that are likely to be coming, but we have no control over them. So it's a federal requirement to work in those facilities. And unfortunately, we don't have, we got 40 nurses that were graduating every fall, 40 every spring. There are different experiences that they have to get that are available at different facilities. So trying to orchestrate that Tetris puzzle piece to get it all done is they do a lot of work. And of course, they're looking forward to getting the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates done as well, because it makes their life easier. But right now they're trying to orchestrate all that. And there's not enough capacity in the system to get everybody through without vaccinations right now. But that is being constantly updated. Is that an accurate?
So
So let's keep that on our radar and regular
I would-
updates and briefings would be
We'll
great.
I'll provide regular updates as things change, but that's the
is
update
it
that we got.
fair to have this be explained to the board at the June or July at the latest?
Yeah, I can, we can.
If anything, a history of like how it went this past 2 semesters, what institutions accepted exemptions.
We don't want to
what
get into
clinicals?
that because there's the challenge
I
you have if
want to
you,
know.
I understand, but if there are 2 spots at institution Z, and because of that, everybody gets the impression that I can get through the program without getting a vaccine because there are 2 slots there, then you're going to have everybody want to get those 2 slots and you can't run the operation that way. And also those institutions that are still mandating vaccines don't want to get people picketing outside the doors. And so Erlene is very cautious. One of the reasons I don't want to put her on the spot, she's very cautious about disclosing vaccines and who's not vaccinated, who requires, who doesn't specifically.
Can we keep this at the board maybe?
Yeah, that's,
Maybe we don't have to throw that public, but at least maybe for our edification. I interrupted you, I'm sorry, but we could go on for another 20 minutes. I'm just thinking, at this point, let's start with you, keep us informed.
Yep.
And then we know where our students are, because I'm with Greg. I knew 3 of the students personally. And one of the young ladies, if you saw her hug me after she got her diploma here at the graduation, when I came down, it's my niece, and she's been in one of the programs that was affected by that.
and a couple of folks can get through the system, but I don't want to give the impression that everyone can, because the throughput capacity right now with the limited number of partners that we have and how they have to respond to the vaccines, I think everybody would love to get rid of them because it's a pain to keep track. It's a pain to recruit people. They would love to get rid of the mandates. So they're not putting the mandates in because they like it. It's being pushed on them. So as soon as we can get rid of those, we're happy to do that. And it will make Erlene's life much
So
easier.
this has never come before the board showing how the board can help on this topic.
I don't, I
And
would,
a lot of people have come to me basically saying these clinicals do provide exemptions to their employees. And then NIC has turned around and said to those students, well, we don't have an mandate to exempt you from.
we're working on creating a policy.
There's only
So-
so much you can do. I mean, I remember making the call to Rick Rasmussen after we had this come up with a couple of students, and I know that circled back around. I'll smile as I say that because they were trying to help us as.
It turned out he couldn't help as much as he thought.
I know, but whether I was out of bounds or not, I know him. He graduated with my brother. He's an 84 grad from Coeur d'Alene's. We make the call. We say, can you help our students, And I know it was a challenge.
What we will do, the College of Western Idaho has a policy or has created a process for granting waivers to students that are not employees and they do not have a vaccine policy. So they have created a process for doing that. And we're going to model that policy. But again, right now, that only accounts for the institutions that will accept that are 2, and they only take 2 students each. So it does not have a huge impact on us. We'll do the policy because it's likely that others will follow that along as as things are reduced. But right now it affects 4 students out of, total number of students in the health professions that have to go through clinicals is a lot more than 2. So we can't, we can eliminate the catch-22, but it only affects 4 students. That makes sense. And we'll do the best we can. And as more facilities open up and make that available, we will take advantage of. And there are other institutions that Erlene presented that they're likely to remove their vaccine mandate very soon. So I think our capacity will go up very quickly for getting people through the system, and I'll provide updates to the board regularly. It will make our lives easier when that happens.
Okay.
And we'll do everything we can to facilitate the waivers. But I understand there's a catch-22, but I'm just saying, it doesn't affect as many students as we think, as you may have thought it did. It's currently right now 4 students because it's 2 facilities and they only take 2 students each. That's from the horse's mouth. Nod if you agree.
Was I part of that conversation still? Or are you looking at me?
I guess I'll settle for scheduling a meeting with Arlene Prickett, the clinicals scheduler, and yourself.
Okay.
How's that?
That's fine.
Any other topics on this? Let's see. Hold on. I got my notes here. I guess I'll have a conversation. I'll take. All right. Lay down my sword. Moving to the last action item for tonight, legal counsel services and clarification. I wanted to hear everyone's thoughts on the legal engagement agreement before the board now. We have an actual engagement agreement. We have all the pricing information that we and
So I'll say, this is the RFP-like product that I would have liked to have presented to the board on April 26th. I just didn't have it. We got this document, I guess, last Thursday, and the rest of the text-based documents we received on Monday, I believe. So now this is a much more complete and thorough product. As I note, they have, the firm has over 500 lawyers. What they are doing is, that is really, I think, beneficial is while the Bob Fauché is the senior partner, we will have direct access to the subordinate attorneys. Maybe subordinate is not the right, the non-senior partner attorneys that operate at a lower cost. And so our, HR can call the HR attorney, contracting can call the contracting attorney. So we can call all those people directly at a lower rate. So I think that's the, they're experts in the field, and if they don't know something, there are 494 other attorneys that they could reach out to in the firm. My math is.
I'm
correct.
Personally more uncomfortable after looking at this material. I know they've done extensive work to this RFP. I appreciate them. I would like to hear Trustee Corkle, your thoughts on this pricing and this engagement agreement before. Of concern to me, I noticed that they have essentially representing Kootenai Health as well. So if we ever had a conflict with them in the future or for vaccine mandates or anything, that they essentially get to choose the work that they to basically choose CUNY Health over us. They put that in the engagement agreement. Is there any other thoughts, trustee Corkle?
I've reviewed it. Excuse me, I've reviewed it and I don't have any problem with it. I truly don't. I'm very comfortable with this.
The doubling in fees or nothing?
Well, so can I,
Trustee Corkle?
Yeah, after reviewing it and talking to Dr. Swain and talking to my friends, I don't have any problem with this. I think it's a proper move.
Trustee Zimmerman?
After I've reviewed it, I really like the team approach. I love that we have areas of expertise that we can reach out to. I understand the fee agreements graduated depending on the expertise that we will need at the time. And I'm very comfortable with this firm, and I know it's taken quite a road to get here. And so this is a good move.
Mr. Chairman, just a personal point of order here. I'm 2 weeks out from a total knee replacement. And I'm not doing so hot right now.
Trying to get us home, sir.
Would it be appropriate if I gave trustee Zimmerman my proxy vote and I excuse myself right now?
No, I don't think it works that way.
Okay.
Trustee Banducci, trustee Wagoner, do you have any thoughts?
Go ahead, Mike. I have a couple, but.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the cost, and then I need to know what the processes or procedures are for the board and board members to access these resources.
we have to work all that out. That's not been determined yet, but we will work all that out. And I'd say in my conversation with these guys, the cost of the hourly fee was not my concern. It's the monthly fee. And what I expressed to them is, in the past, we paid 10 to 15,000 a month, and we're currently sitting at about 25,000 a month. And so I want to get down to less than 15. And honestly, if I have to pay somebody $1,000 an hour, but my monthly fee goes to 15,000, that's a much better deal than what, sorry, Art, but it's a much better deal than we're getting now.
There's no more reports to write. So.
So I think that's the objective that we had when we talked to them, and they're pretty confident that they can help us with that.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
if I may share a couple thoughts.
Go for it.
I'll speak specifically to Holland and Hart in just a moment, but I'll speak generically to what Dr. Swain just stated, what he talked about. One of the things that's an interesting phenomenon is we got people complaining and accusing us of increasing our litigation costs and our attorney's costs and all these lawsuits that we've cost us. Well, that would be just fine if I actually sued the college. If I sued the college and initiated our $100,000 deductible on our coverage, then that would be on me because I would have initiated the action against the college. But I haven't. Mr. Gridley has, the Hagedorn Corporation has, and Mr. Swain has. So those are at least 3 lawsuits that have been instigated that nobody on the board instigated. So to say that we caused litigation and costs is inaccurate because I've not initiated any action against the college or against my fellow trustees. The second thing is when you initiate action, you cause the college attorney to have to work quite a lot, actually. When there was other lawsuits, Mr. Lyons was quite busy and with other duties. And then, of course, once ICRIMP, in their case, or our current insurance company, once they assign litigation attorneys, then they do quite a bit of the work, but still in concert with the college trustee attorney, the board attorney, the college attorney, which in our case is all one. Some places will have attorneys for the college and attorneys for the board. So it's a bit disingenuous to say how expensive Art was when most of the time what he was doing was responding to lawsuits that were brought on by external entities. So you created that expense. And not to poke the bear here, but Mr. President, yours was one of them that created probably the most of the 3. So there was quite a bit there. So the lawsuits that were initiated are the ones that help produce the costs. And it's why Art's fees were so high. It's because he was having to respond to these multiple lawsuits. And as far as our insurance carrier and any issues there and expense there, it's because the people initiated the lawsuits. So let's just keep that in perspective.
So, some might say that.
I don't know if you want to respond right now.
Well, but some might say that the actions by Mr. McCumber were what instigated the lawsuits.
Well, some might want to say that.
I don't think Mr. McNamara can force this board to do anything.
But hey,
Mr. Chairman, I'll be back.
Okay.
So so that's the first couple thoughts there.
I would like to make a
No.
statement if nobody else has anything else.
No, I wanted to finish what I was going to
Okay,
say.
wrap it
I
up.
want to, so that was about lawsuits in general and attorneys and what I'll say, what legal counsel services / clarification. So we'll put that under clarification category because it's been kind of annoying and it's the first chance I've had to really address it. And I think it's important because there are those that seem to be heck bent on not, you know what, we have elections. And then what you can do is if you lose the election, you can work really hard at the next election and you can win that election. I personally been elected 3 times, so y'all haven't beaten me yet. And so when there's a majority and they make decisions, then you go after them and you attack them. And that's part of what we talked about earlier tonight and why we are here and what happened at my office. So that's not the way that it goes about it. What you do is you go through the process, but if you're not, and it becomes, well, if I can get a judge that works with me, or I can sue you, or I can work through an external agency by weaponizing the state board or the governor's office or the accreditation or whatever. Those are not how this is all supposed to be done. And this is what makes it so adversarial and where all this hate and anger and all this emotion comes in. If you work for the person that you want to get elected, donate to them, walk your precincts, whatever, put hangers on the door and do the elective process, but don't undermine the voters in the process. And the voters keep speaking, but some people don't want to hear that. And that's what facilitates what happens. And again, I don't want us to become what we see nationally. So we still got to be able to do this in a way that can be civil. Whether you agree or not, work harder, get your people elected. It's okay. Now, as far as Holland and Hart, I'm not comfortable voting on this for several reasons. One is I want to know the procedures. I want to know how we have access. I want to fully understand what it's going to cost us to bring up an attorney from Boise to come to our meetings. My understanding is we're going to have travel, per diem, lodging. There's going to be a lot of expenses there. When I look at the rates here, and there was such a big deal made about Mr. McNamara's rate. Whatever you think of Mr. McNamara, the noise and the scream and the yell, but now suddenly we're A-okay. There's the rates of the 6 people, 500 an hour, 525 an hour, 440 an hour, 685 an hour, 395 an hour, and 765 an hour. Every one of those is significantly more than Mr. McNamara. And nobody's local. There's nobody that's here that can come down, we can talk to. Everything's gonna have to be by Zoom or phone calls or the occasional trip up here, maybe I guess for the monthly meeting. But if we have a special meeting or if there's just something else, we're going to end up with a phone call or a Zoom. And quite frankly, one of the roles of the attorney for this college and for this board is to assist the board chair in the runnings of the meeting. If anybody watched me as board chair for the almost 2 years I did it, Mark Lyons sat right next to me. For part of that, I had Ken Howard on the other side of me. What you'd see occasionally is me leaning over to Mark or me leaning over to Ken because Ken was chair for a number of years. Or they'd both be leaning in and we'd be talking about how to move forward as to what was going on and what made sense and what was the correct way to proceed. And that was putting 3 guys that are all, I think, pretty smart guys trying to figure out, and sometimes it takes that. And so one of the attorney's primary roles is to help guide the meeting and help the board chair to run the meeting and to be the sanity check on many things. It's an important role. So I have some concerns. We have the costs. I have some things that aren't formalized. I need to know the procedures. Another thing that just jumps out at me, and I guess I'm particularly conscious to this because there were some issues with Mr. Lyons' contract. It was about 20 years old. It had been with Ramsden Lyons. and it had never been updated. And that came up as an issue. And then kind of in the dark of the night, he and Rick signed a new one pager in January of 2021, I guess it was, because it was after the election, a couple months. And that was not appropriate, in my opinion. I was the board chair and I had no idea they were doing it until I found out after the fact. So when I look at this thing, I see the signature on here is Sarah Garcia. I think at a
There's
minimum,
There's an updated one with the chair and Sarah Garcia.
okay, good. I hadn't seen that because I think at a minimum, the chair needs to be one of the signatures on there because the college is represented by the elected board of trustees and the attorney works for the board and the college. And so the board has to be involved in that process. So I'm glad to hear that that was changed because the copy I have did not have anybody beyond Ms. Garcia on there for the signature. So that was concerned to me also.
Are you finished or have something prepared?
I want to chew on this a little more and I'd like more information. We have another meeting in 2 weeks. I would be happy to address it at that time when we have the rest of the information and procedures and how this is gonna work. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. I've thought about this constantly ever since the vote. I've got 3 paragraphs I'd just like to say. I want to first off thank the many community members who spoke and messaged me and mostly actually thanked me for my vote to transition legal counsel, one tonight and many in person. And whenever that was done, I also provided those individuals information of what I only learned after the vote about the nearly doubling of expense fees. And most of those individuals were surprised at the large fee value and did not feel comfortable themselves with the vote results afterwards. For today, I believe it's in NIC's best interest to halt this lawyer transfer tonight. As written, this engagement agreement is different to what was explained to the board and subsequently agreed to the night of April 26th. Both ACCT consultants and NWCCU's on-site peer reviewers identified the board should have been provided more information to make an informed vote. In contrary, the board never received information regarding Holland and Hart or Perkins Cole prior to voting on this information. So I do like that Holland and Hart does have a good broad library of attorneys, and that is good, but the rates are quite expensive. There's also a lot of limitations that I referred to earlier, that they get to choose what they want to take on and what not to take on. That I don't feel that leaves NIC in a good position possible in the future. And even just last month, Lakeland Joint School District Board of Trustees altered course when Trustee David Quimby changed his vote on an issue, quoting Trustee Quimby directly. "We didn't have the information, ... I have the information now to make a better decision." Likewise, I have the information now to make a better decision and have decided to vote and believe another direction is in the best interest of NIC. So I also believe that an option for the RFQ that was not presented to the board, and the board should have an opportunity to evaluate all the options from the RFQ. And I would feel more comfortable with that engagement agreement being presented to this board. So I have prepared a motion. I have a motion to revoke this prior motion accepting Holland and Hart due to further review, more information being provided, such as pricing, evidence of undesirable terms in the engagement agreement, including conflict of interest provisions that have not been communicated or reviewed prior to the board, prior to the vote. So that's a motion. If there's a second, we can figure out what to do next.
I'll second it.
Second, it, go into discussion. I feel like everyone had their words before to say. Calling for a vote. All those in favor of my motion passing, I'm happy to read it again if you want. To revoke this prior motion accepting Holland and Hart due to further review, more information being provided such as pricing, evidence of undesirable terms in engagement agreement, including conflict of interest provisions that have not been communicated or reviewed by the board prior to the vote. All those in favor of saying aye, or if this motion passing, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Trustee Banducci, trustee Wagner voted aye, trustee Corkle, trustee Zimmerman voted nay. The chair votes aye, the motion passes, the Holland Hart is revoked, transitioning as of this moment. So I also motion to have the RFQ applicants each present to the board an engagement agreement, which is able to be terminated by either one of us upon notice to the other at any time, and also authorize the board chair to have the administrative authority to sign a contract if deemed suitable, either upon presentation to the board or at the next board meeting. So that decision is left to me. But naturally, the whole board will be getting the engagement agreement.
There was only one person that submitted, and that person was a single lawyer firm and did not respond to the RFQ in a way that indicated they had actual experience. They said they talked generalities, which Sarah and actually Dr. South, while I was out, evaluated that and recommended strongly against pursuing that. So I would rather than pursuing an existing firm that was already evaluated and found to have not submitted a quality RFQ, I would recommend that the board give us an opportunity to put out another RFQ and see if other firms are interested in responding before we take one that was deemed not qualified.
The statements. Okay.
I mean, it doesn't delay things much and gives us an opportunity to.
Is there a second to my motion?
What motion?
Did I make
Repeat
the
that,
motion? I
please.
don't know.
About the RFQ?
Yeah, a motion to have the RFQ applicants each present to the board an engagement agreement, which is able to be terminated by either one of us upon notice to the other at any time. And also authorize the board chair to have the administrative authority to sign a contract if deemed suitable, either upon presentation to the board or at the next board meeting. And I think we should also allow the president to pursue other engagement agreements to present before the board with that motion as well.
It is really disruptive to switch back and forth with attorneys. So rather than accept a new attorney and then switch, I would recommend that we stay on with Mr. McComber and until such time as we have time to submit an RFQ and hopefully solicit more applicants that meet the greater need of the college.
Well, I would like to see this engagement agreement, and doesn't mean I have to sign it. So I'm happy to have more discussion in a collaborative fashion. Trustee Banducci.
This is for you and probably for President Swain also. Do I need this motion right now? Or we're gonna go out and so I don't know. Sorry, I'm not articulating my question well. Still formulating it in my head here. Okay, basically, we're making a motion to say we want to have a search. We want to have it brought to us. We want to see it. And you as the chair representing the board will interact with that along with the president. Is that basically the gist of the motion?
Yeah, basically, with this motion, it gives me authority to get another engagement agreement and basically interview the candidate and
But are you talking about the one that was?
Yes.
It was already.
Yes, I
reviewed
think
and
if
failed?
somebody thinks they're qualified, I think I disagree with what you said, respectfully.
But so I'll say it's the staff who have to work with an attorney that doesn't understand HIPAA and FERPA and Title IX and may understand the law, but not the application, it is exceedingly time consuming for the staff to have to do that. That's not something you necessarily have expertise with as a chair. And so one of the reasons why this individual that you're talking about failed is because they said they were familiar with, but had no experience with those issues. And that is critical to the ongoing operation of the college. And so for that reason, they were not, we didn't pursue them. And they're also a single operator. So there's no depth in the firm. And so those are the reasons why they were failed the first time. So rather than taking that guy on, let us have the opportunity to do an RFQ again and see if we can get another firm that has more than a couple of attorneys that give us the depth and breadth that we're looking for.
All right.
I'm just asking because it really is incredibly burdensome on staff to onboard a new attorney. And especially if we're going to onboard a new attorney and submit an RFQ that searches for another attorney. Either we're not doing that it's sort of disingenuous RFQ, or we're going to switch twice in a very short amount of time.
I would agree with that. I think, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think Dr. Swain has a good point there. We don't want to switch and then switch again.
I think, I think this Colton Boyle character, not character, law firm is, they've represented multiple agencies before, and I think they'll do an excellent job for North Idaho College.
But
And
not higher ed. And it's a different animal.
I understand that, and he serves at the pleasure of the board, and we can have more discussions with Colton Boyle
But
as he presents his
But the staff
engagement
are the
agreement.
ones that have to work with the attorney on a daily basis. It's critical for them to have access to somebody that understands the topic and has experience. And so understanding but no experience isn't helpful. So we really need to have somebody that has an understanding and experience. And his RFP did not indicate that he had either of those. His response to the RFQ did not indicate that he had those.
Well, I'm welcome to bring him before the Board of Trustees and do an interview and with an engagement agreement, which is what this motion does. So
Chair McKenzie.
Trustee Zimmerman.
Thank you. Just from listening to you go back and forth, I get the idea that there may be a conflict here, as it sounds like you are very familiar with this candidate who was not brought forth. And so if you do have a conflict, whereas you know this person and you're working to advance him, I would ask you to reconsider.
Working to advance. I don't think
You're not,
I don't know what you're talking.
you don't have a conflict of interest. You don't know this person already.
I don't think a conflict of interest has to do with whether you know somebody. I think it has to do with whether there's a pecuniary interest in them being hired.
Yes.
Or unfairly advancing that individual for reasons other than qualification.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
barely
still,
not
I'm
presenting them
continually
for it.
surprised that there are no attorneys within 100 miles. So I think maybe a wider, maybe a more diligent search would be proper.
We're
Trustee Banducci.
well, maybe 100 miles. Yeah, something that's drivable. God, otherwise we're back to one of my concerns was, and again, I was kind of got boxed in here a little bit. I was willing to even, sit on this and get more information and put it off a little bit, but we end up kind of where we are now. But yeah, I'm just, I don't want somebody in Boise. I don't want somebody in Seattle. I mean, ideally we could get somebody in Coeur d'Alene or Spokane, but I guess it could be
Lewiston, Moscow.
Lewiston or somewhere. So anything that's within a couple hour drive
You know,
probably makes sense.
I really care about this process and I think,
No, I do too, but I think it's important that the person is physically available too. I mean, phone is nice and Zoom is nice, but maybe I'm a little old school here on that, but. And again, not to make a big deal about price sensitivity and everything else, because times we pay more, times we pay less, but anyway. I'm open to some suggestions.
I highly recommend my motion. So calling the question, all those in favor of passing the motion to have the RFQ applicants each present to the board an engagement agreement, which is able to be terminated by either one of us upon notice to the other at any time, and also authorize the board chair to have the administrative authority to sign a contract if deemed suitable, either upon presentation to the board or at the next board meeting.
Chair McKenzie. There was no second.
Is there so I made the motion. Is there a second? We just had discussion on it then. Was there no second? Does anyone would like to make that second?
Sir, would you repeat your motion one more time? Sorry, I know it's getting late.
The motion to have the RFQ applicants, which there was two, and one withdrew the second time, which I believe it was Colton Boyles who applied, and then also Mark Lyons applied. So I don't know if he's going to apply again to the board and engagement, which is odd that he resigned and then applied again, which is able to be terminated by either one of us upon notice to the other at any time, and also authorize the board chair to have the administrative authority to sign a contract if deemed suitable, either upon presentation to the board or at the next board meeting. I'm happy to modify if you don't like the second part, if you just want to see it at the next board meeting. I motion to have the RFQ applicants each present to the board an engagement agreement, which is able to be terminated by either one of us upon notice to the other at any time, and also authorize the board chair to have the administrative authority to sign a contract if deemed suitable, either upon presentation to the board or at the next board meeting.
May I ask a question, sir?
Trustee Banducci. So there is still no second.
I'm going to ask a question on the motion.
Question on the motion.
So I'm not going to debate. I want to understand the motion. I think I can do that to understand the motion before we second it. And then there'll be debate on the motion. There was the two applicants. Are we saying that we're going to additionally offer the opportunity for other folks to apply also? And then each of the folks that would respond to that RFQ, then they would submit to this interview process or be someone that would be looked at? Or are we just going to look at the pool of those that had previously responded to the RFQ?
I'm open to, if this engagement agreement causes my fellow trustees heartburn, to opening a new RFQ at the next board meeting. But I think we can have that discussion at the next board meeting.
And your point is that you'd like all of the
people who applied to our RFQ, I think, should be presented to the board.
That's my
their
question.
offer
So
and
everybody
rated.
that responds to the RFQ, you'd like to
Only-
have, well, no, I know, humor me in theory. Hypothetically, if we have more than one, two or three, then each of them would have the opportunity to be presented to the board. That's what you would like. Okay,
Well, yeah, but there's only one left there.
I understand.
So
Okay, I'm just trying to understand where we're going here.
But once we get the engagement agreement, if I see other conflicts or pricing, I think the pricing is right. And I think it's the best interest of North Idaho College to do this. Because many people have public records this institution and talk to me and are disgusted with things, how it goes. So
I can't emphasize enough that
thank you, sir.
the gentleman does not have the experience.
He's
that we
served
need,
many a public agencies.
but not
So
higher ed.
But we're gonna have the, okay, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be obtuse here. We're gonna have the opportunity for other people to be engaged on this.
It sounds to me like we're
RF
hiring Mr. Boyle.
Well,
there is a chance that we could be, if The paperwork spans out.
My understanding is we're reopening the RFQ and others could apply.
If you want to do that the next board meeting, sir, we can do that. If the engagement agreement put before you, you don't like enough, or there's things you want to do, then we can do that. We can do it tonight. I recommend my motion, and then we'll take it from there.
Tell me what you mean when you say it could be at the next meeting. What would that look like? That we would have 2 weeks to see if anybody else throws their hat in the ring, and then
There's no RFQ, there's no open RFQ, so there's no opportunity unless we open an RFQ for people to throw their hat in the ring. So that's the dilemma is right now we have one person that has been deemed not to meet the standards of the college, may meet the standards of the board, but not the college.
RFQs were failed because of the quantity.
No, it was also the quality. There was only one, and he would.
Let's not do that back and forth. That's
Yeah.
That's not what we want to do right now. So, sorry, I don't mean to tell you two gentlemen, but there's an optic there we probably want to avoid. Do we have a off-the-shelf RFQ that could be put out immediately? And we could buy 2 weeks to see if anybody else wants to play, and at least we could potentially have more than one person in the pool.
Yes.
Because we've gone through this exercise.
We have an RFQ that's ready to go.
How about that for a compromise? It's 2 weeks till our next meeting. We see if anybody else wants to apply within that time, and then we evaluate who we have at that time as options.
Okay, and possibly, okay, I can entertain a new motion to
I just think it's a little rushed tonight, and I think
work
it'd be good.
to interview
So-
candidates.
Can I add one more thing? If we have the information on Mr. Boyles from his submissions, can we get that?
Well, can we get an engagement agreement? Just, can the college reach out to him, and can he at least get a phone call for applying to our RFQ and see,
Okay,
have his conversation and perspective on what he can do for us?
my request,
Go ahead.
so sorry. My request would be if we could have whatever information the gentleman has provided. And if we have that from him, if not, maybe we could ask that. So if we're evaluating him amongst him and or others, we can be informed. Again, as I said at the last time when I voted no, I didn't have anything. So I'm not prepared to vote for somebody now or make a motion because I don't have the stuff in front of me again. So if I could have all that from this gentleman and what you're asking for, I would appreciate that. And if there's anybody else that we should be considering, I'd like to have that also.
Okay.
That's
I
not
make a
real-
new motion.
I don't like to vote on blind there.
Yeah, that's fine. We have the response from the RFQ. And we can provide that. We can get a new RFQ out there.
Can he provide us, what's it called, an engagement letter? Has that gentleman done that, or can he do that?
It's typically the next step. So
Okay.
I'm not
Sure, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so and
I don't know the
what's-
legal profession.
It's sort of frustrating because the purpose of the RFQ or RFP is essentially a one-way interview. Give us your best shot why we should hire you. And there's not supposed to be an interaction, which is why we don't call them. We say you haven't been selected or you have been selected to move forward in the process, but it's a one-way interview. And based on the one-way interview of the RFQ, the information provided did not indicate that the gentleman had the experience. Maybe he does, but it's not fair to give him hints on how to provide a better RFQ that are not given to anybody else. So there's typically not an interaction. It's a one-shot deal. Give us your best shot.
May I suggest we are in a unique situation that we did not have much of a response.
I think,
Let me ask the question, sir, based on where we're at the moment, what would you think would be the next action as we've discussed? Oh, just a moment, sir. I'm looking at the president.
I think what I would like to do is reach out to LCSC. Who do they use? They don't have in-house counsel. They contract out. So I would reach out to the other institutions in the area, including the
Okay, so we're going to reopen the RFQ.
reopen RFQ
And then we'll let
encourage
everybody
them to
go and
apply.
then we'll get the information for whoever, including the gentleman that's already.
If he
in the
wants to
queue.
reapply, yep.
Okay. Okay. And
Do we need a motion for that or can we just direct? the
I can do
president?
that. I can.
That's why I'm at, yes, sir. That's why I was trying to figure out where we were at. That's why I was asking, what do you think the next?
I don't,
step
I
is?
don't need a motion for that. I can execute if that's the will of the board.
Okay. Do you, Mr. Chair, are you comfortable that that's a path for the moment?
And
We're gonna-
everyone who applies to the RFQ gets a phone call at least?
I think we need,
They don't typically get a phone call.
I think the caveat is, please make the board aware of all the applicants.
Absolutely.
I think, can we make that a caveat to this?
Absolutely.
And everybody has the ability and we see it and we get presented with
Yep.
the options.
Yep.
Okay. That meets you what you're desiring? One way or the other, we got. 2
Kind
weeks.
of, because that was a
Yeah.
kind of nod, right?
I'm not satisfied.
It sounds like mediation. Nobody got what they
Right.
wanted.
Right. So we're all unhappy equally.
You know, I hate that, but that's how they describe that. Mediation is where everybody's unhappy when you're done. That's kind of weird.
But I think I mean, I would not be doing my job if I didn't portray the concern that the staff have with moving forward with an attorney that based on the RFQ that was presented.
Well, let's do this then. Let's put it out there. Let's see what we have and we'll look at it in 2 weeks. Maybe we need an executive session, but hopefully the materials can be given to us a few days in advance. We'll get the questions, see what the engagement looks like. Maybe we need to ask for engagement letters, get as much information as possibly can. And then we make a decision based on what we have. And then everybody's gonna have to live with it. Right. And that's what we do.
That's fine.
So that's probably the best we can do at that point. We may have a limited candidate pool. But I'd like somebody local.
Yeah, okay.
That's me personally. Everybody else can have their own opinion, obviously.
I would too.
So
I also like someone local.
Local.
It just, nobody local, even the local folks we reached out to.
I
were,
understand.
Not either not interested or conflicted, so.
Small community, there's lots of.
But we will put out an RFP. I'm gonna look at Sarah and say tomorrow, and she's gonna throw something at me. But we'll get an RFQ out as soon as possible. And work to get solicit more responses.
Right. Okay, now in the interim, while we're doing that, we still have
art.
Yeah.
Is it time for me to speak?
You have something to say?
I do.
Oh.
As NIC counsel, I am obligated to bring circumstances to the attention of the board and president that indicate laws are being broken or are in imminent peril of being broken by college personnel. This is a professional requirement of my license to practice law, which includes Rule 1.16 of the Idaho Rules of Professional Conduct. Even while I must safeguard client confidentiality, I cannot stand by when circumstances trigger that rule. In this case, I have made the president and then the Board of Trustees aware of circumstances related to violations of portions of Title VI of Idaho Code. I have given timely and appropriate advice about my concerns. That legal advice has not only been ignored, but attempts have been made to involve my NIC counsel position to further such wrongful acts to the detriment of NIC. In my view, such acts are morally and legally indefensible. Even so, the college reasonably expects me to assist with the transition to new legal counsel, and I must do so as promised. Starting tonight, though, my work for the college will only be to facilitate the transition to new legal counsel. My contract with NIC will end on August 15, 2023, but tonight, these circumstances require me to now withdraw as NIC counsel.
We will do our best to secure counsel as soon as possible.
Then, well, I think. Thank you. Yeah, I'd say our target at the latest then is,
The next board
meeting in June.
Yep.
We got 2 weeks.
Yep.
See what else we can get. And if we have a pool of candidates, if we're still at one, then we're at one.
We're at one.
I think your suggestion to poll the other educational institutions around here is a wise one.
Can't hurt. Can't hurt. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if that's the last action item, I'm gonna ask to be excused.
Sure.
Better.
May I make a friendly suggestion or a motion? I'm not sure which is required, and I don't have legal counsel that tell me if I'm violating any of Robert's Rules of Orders that we only use as a guide anyway. So I guess we can, within the law, can do whatever we want. We still have 4 more informational items, and it is almost 10 o'clock at night. We have a meeting in 2 weeks.
I can cover 2 in just a couple minutes.
Okay,
And
if we can go fast, I'll sit.
I'll go,
for
I'll
long.
go fast.
But your leg and my back are about to go singing and dancing together because I can barely sit for another 10 seconds.
So if with the chair's permission, I can jump to tab 4. We have been working on the recurring reports, and I think it is very important that we return to a system of recurring reports to keep the board informed with what's going on. So if you look at tab 4, this is a draft version. If there are things that people want to see different, that's fine. Our intentions are to start this in August. So these would be items that would pop up on the agenda as information items or reports from the appropriate committee members.
No, this is great. We've been working on this for the last 3 years. Shannon's been quarterbacking that. We've been doing that, maybe not quite as formally with the agenda items and stuff.
Right. So that's all. If there are other things you want to see, then by all means, let us know. We'll try to work them in where there are lighter months, like September and February, but this is the foundation of a recurring report system that we hope will improve the operations of the college, the governance, and give us more opportunities to keep the board informed. The last thing is the NIC policy review. As Trustee Wagner and Trustee Zimmerman have been going through the board policies, we have a ton of policies that are on here. And so what we are now demonstrating is that we endeavor to get through all of these policies. It's some of them that require very little change. We'll do like we did tonight, get them updated and reviewed, and to the board if there are no changes, get them to the board under a consent agenda item. If they require substantive reviews, they'll have to go through our process, go to Senate, get reviewed, go to PC, get reviewed, and then go to the board for final review. So we're working on that process. This was adopted in 2020 under the policy on policies, but never really fully implemented. So there's a 7-year review cycle that's supposed to happen, and a lot of that just didn't happen. Some of it did, but a lot of it didn't. And so we're going to go through as quickly as we can and identify policies that just need to be reviewed, and we'll change the dates as last reviewed, and then identify those that are most important to get fixed.
15-second comment. You guys have been really great at providing us the procedures that support those policies. If you could continue to do that for context.
Same
that's
thing. Yep.
helpful.
Policies and procedures will be reviewed.
And
So those are the 2 items.
I think we're also, according to policy, quarterly, it's due for president's evaluation too. Are we gonna kick that off?
Yeah, we'll kick that off. I mean, we got a little bit out of cycle, but we'll kick that off. Have to think about where the quarters are, but that's we can negotiate on that, whenever that is, because June is really the end of the fiscal year. So we can backdate that 4 months and we'll figure it out, but that's.
Are we gonna initiate one?
Yeah,
with the
yeah, yeah,
CCT
yeah,
soon?
yeah.
We can talk offline on that.
Yeah, but I think.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Any
So then
other
we can
agenda items? I think
adjust the
this
rest of it.
meeting is done. Everyone, thank you for coming. Have a good night.